Hello everyone, it's the storyteller here. I've prepared something slow, eerie, and sleep-friendly for you tonight. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Are you drifting off already, or still wide awake? Psychography of Fear Lieutenant Michael Donovan, Homicide Division, Harrison Police Department, 465 Avenue A, Harrison, Michigan, 87078. Lieutenant Donovan. Should this letter reach you in time, you will find me entombed within the Bartholomew family mausoleum at the Bayview Cemetery. Buried in the floor near the north wall is a crypt covered with a clear quartz-like stone which forms the lid. Depending on when this letter reaches you, I may still be alive. Now, before you judge Clarissa, know I loved her dearly. My wife enjoyed a generous trust, and she gave back willingly to the community through the Bartholomew Foundation. Before my acquiring the calcium carcinogenic disease, we enjoyed a full, albeit private life. Unfortunately, the progression of my malady caused a severe deformity to the bone structure of both my spine and face, giving me a chalk-like necromantic disposition. Could you live with protruding spindles of white abnormalities in your cheeks, jaw, and neck? Can you imagine the pain from a severe left-leaning gait caused by spinal collapse? The sad joke of the neighborhood brood calling me the Hunchback of Notre Dame? And yet, so like the Hunchback, I possessed a kind soul. Our run-ins with the Harrison Police Department began some years ago when Clarissa became, if you will, off-kilter, caused by her living with the progression of my physical misfortunes. I refused to ask for help, a mistake on my part in hindsight, and stood by as her pathologies gained in concert with my own, but not in her body, as in mine, but her mind. She became obsessed with the belief that by experiencing fear, a euphoric state could be obtained when adrenaline and stress hormones within the amygdala of her brain spiked. She believed the exhilaration generated in her psychosis came from beyond the realm of human awareness. Who can argue? I catered to her delusions. She demanded I accompany her as she drove our Porsche up the mountain. Dome overpass at enough speed to frankly terrify us both. She screaming wide-eyed with delight, me praying for it to all end. White fists on the dash, while the lights and sirens of the department pursued us. Later, Clarissa insisted her fear level dissipated too quickly and wasn't nearly enough in intensity to achieve the arousal she desired. So next, we tried drowning. While holding her head beneath the emerald lily pads I loved so dearly, her body thrashed, the water churning with her panicked kicking, her clawing at my bleeding forearms. But again, it was not enough. Rising from my release, sputtering and choking, she soon screamed at me for holding back, claiming me weak. She needed an extended fear episode, and she needed a higher level. She needed not fear, but terror, and for a long time. What could achieve this? I'll let Clarissa describe the effect achieved from her own diary. May 1st, 2024. I know it's wrong. It makes no sense to speed recklessly, to drown yourself to near death, to lie in desperation for rescue in a grave. And yet, what is the harm? I am not hurting another soul. Henry is helping me. My poor malformed Henry, you dear. May 5th, 2024. Even now, I relive the event in my mind as a dream. It's at night, and Henry and I enter black iron gates. The sign, Bayview Cemetery, creaks in the dream as the wind rises. It must be fall as brown leaves tumble ahead of us. We soon find the Bartholomew Mausoleum. Henry turns the key in the oak-timbered door, but he must throw his shoulder to force it open, each thrust causing another scrape against the marble pedestal of the entry, the moon glistening on the white rock. We enter, and the odor of dust raises my adrenaline, my heart rate. Fear rises up my back, a tickling sensuality. Should we have brought a flashlight? We're idiots not to bring a light. My iPhone. I fumble with the app. Henry has brought a crowbar from the Porsche, and we pry open the lid of my parents' crypt. It takes both our strength, but with a sound of heavy, clear quartz against granite, the 8-by-5-foot lid slides away. In the shaking light, the sightless eyes of my parents stare. I gasp as my breath is plucked from my chest. My bearded father is dressed to the nines in a rotting black tuxedo. My mother's white wedding dress is shredded by, I surmise, tunneling incubuses. My parents are shriveled, dry, and dead. How long? 5 years. I ask Henry to help me lie on my parents' bodies and feel the lumping softness on my back, down the back of my bare legs. I should have worn trousers. My long-ago mother's embrace holds me as I settle in. I still feel her love. Is this possible? There is a rush up my back, the tingling of nerves. Slide the lid closed, Henry, I say, peering up at him. Take my iPhone, please. Are you sure? He asks. Number, give it back. He smiles and hands down the phone, slides the lid closed, and leaves. Pitch black arrives when the mausoleum door echoes closed. No more Henry. I am now immersed in the intimacy of death. My hands push up on the slick quartz lid inches from my face. Turning on the iPhone, I strain to look and see the phone is nearly out of power. There are no service bars. Setting the phone on my chest, the light goes out. A guttural hack from my throat. Retapping the phone gets the screen light to come back on. The quartz lid of the casket on my fingers is cool, smooth, and unyielding. Pushing with all my strength, I try to raise it, slide it. It does not yield. I cannot move my head more than a few inches. I try to turn my body to get more comfortable, but can't. I lift my foot, and it hits the bottom of the lid with just inches to spare. I know cortisol and adrenaline are being released into my body because my chest is pounding, and I can't hold a thought. I am grabbing the pieces of my mind as if each thought is a stray cat, uncontrollable and desperately yowling. My mouth quivers with a bitter, foreign, metallic taste permeating the back of my throat. I know a fight-or-flight response is triggering panic. I'm hyperventilating, breathing gutturally, panicking, and almost out of my mind in terror. The breaking point comes when a slither crosses my bare ankle. This is not an insect. It has weight. It is slick, moist, and warm. Where is Henry? Please God, where is he? I take deep breaths. This works to calm me and then doesn't. My heart beats in pain, a heart attack. 30. You're too young. You're too young. Hold on a little longer. But I don't get a grip, and I can't move. The movement beneath me rustles. It slithers. My God, what the hell is it? My parents are grabbing me with their bony fingers, and I can't take it anymore. Where's Henry? Henry? I call. I scream. Henry! I'm ready, Henry! For God's sake, slide open the lid. My phone goes out, and in the black of my mind, I try to die to end this. I reach for the phone by my side, and my fingers slide into the sticky torso of my father's corpse. I strangely remember his chicken pot pie with the crust. My heart is trying to break out of my chest, and I'm dying from lack of air. Beneath me, my mother whispers. She says, "Go, go, go. You can go. You are at a place outside of your body, your mind, your very essence. Join us." Finally, it stops. The anxiety and fear just stop, and I am in space, and I can see thousands, no, millions of stars, and I am at rest. Is this death? Am I dead? No, I am not dead. I am at peace. I found it. I want to stay. The lid of the crypt scrapes against the granite once again, and there is Henry. He has a flashlight. You can read from my wife's diary entry, Lieutenant. Clarissa achieved an abnormal state of mind, chasing her terror as a need. After returning home, she told me the level of physical horror, the white blindness in her eyes, the searing intensity of impending death, the unknown of it ripping through her brain, wasn't enough. We talked late into the night. Let me give you the conversation as I remember it. I could go higher, she said. A journey in the mind such as this requires a companion, like a friend sharing a trip through the infernal of hell. Always better to have company. What do you mean? I asked. She explained she needed someone to join her in the crypt, to be bured in the crypt with no assurance of being saved. She needed to see and feel the companion's fear of the dark, his thrusting terror trying to open the unmovable lid after finding himself in the pungency of the grave. She had to know his fingers would discover a decaying flesh while probing beneath him. He needed to discover he was lying on a corpse that moves, that reaches, embraces. Only then would his body clamp down. Only then would his frightened gasps fill his lungs with the smell of death. Only then would he experience the agony of knowing he was dying. She needed to see and feel and take in this terror into her soul while she lay on top of the lid of the crypt, looking down through the clear quartz in the near pitch dark. His terror observed. Only then could she find nirvana, find peace. I poured my wife a glass of sherry. Where will we find such a man? I asked. Who would come willingly? No, not willingly, she said. We have broken no laws, no serious laws, I said. Even joining with your dead parents in their final place is not. In our own family mausoleum, she said. Exactly, in your family's own mausoleum. Is not a crime, she said, gesturing with her finger for me to drink up. Number not a crime, I said. What about you? She asked. Do you think you could reach the level of the horror I'm seeking while I wait for you, while I watch you from above? I slugged some sherry. Well, Do you love me? Of course, I said. Clarissa tilted her head ever so slightly. Maybe with a practice run you might feel better. After my wife slid shut the lid of the crypt the first time, I was enveloped in a dead silence. Immediately I gagged from an acidic smell of what could only be decaying flesh. With my nose inches from the quartz lid, I vomited on my chest, retching repeatedly. Lying in the black, sweating from nausea, I lost all sense of time. A minute could just as easily be an hour. The bodies beneath me shifted. I couldn't stop imagining there were rats crawling somewhere beneath me. The sides and floor of the grave had certainly rotted away, permitting the entry of any sort of burrowing creature. Clarissa would not permit a phone or flashlight. It hit me. Will she let me out? The inside of my head, my brain, started to freeze, to lock up. I couldn't remember my name or where I was. Like a tongue slurping the inside of my mouth, I searched for my memory. Where am I? And what's moving across my leg? I welcomed losing my mind, to be honest. I lay there in the dark, wanted to lose it faster. When Clarissa let me out, she was breathless and sweating. I felt embarrassed to see her so fevered, like I was a voyeur in her own fantasy, not mine to share. I looked away, ashamed, but there on the stoned lid of the crypt, a concupiscence of lust drove the two of us together, like the spike in a steel rail. Frankly, this was a sexuality so powerful, we became the closest we'd ever been, but there was no tenderness, only something primeval. When raised to the level of horror, an utmost horror, the kind where you feel your mind slip, when the awareness of who you are is sliding coldly down your throat, when you're gagging to hang on, I discovered joining another human being can be intoxicating beyond measure. The violence of the taking didn't matter. I was deformed now in body and spirit. We eventually settled on twice a week for our sessions, and this seemed sufficient to fulfill her maleficence, her craving. I admit to being trapped in the game, relishing the union, but we didn't talk anymore, living in silence between us. After some months of us living this game, you can imagine what I was thinking when I read her latest diary entry. October 31st, 2024. Henry is a true dear. How many husbands would go to the lengths he has to please his wife? But bless his heart, the deformities he is acquiring are more than one woman can stand. The other night he lay in bed next to me, thinking, I am sure, I was asleep, while he picked and pried out the bones protruding from his face. What loving wife would put up with this for long? But dare say I would. I love him. But my fetish, no, not fetish, but an overwhelming passion, an estrangement from him, is growing in me even as I write this. It seems all my power of will is lost to some foreign beast I have come to love more than my husband. This presence serves up in front of me a banquet full of the addictions of horror. This is Henry's horror also, in addition to my own, but I can't stop gorging from the table, seeing Henry squirm beneath me while I decide to let him out or not. The raw power. Knowing he is experiencing his horror is too great a desire. It calls me, and I am helpless in its summons. Spoken words seem to gush forth from my mouth, not my own, ordering Henry to the crypt. Yet it's not me. If the arms that slide the lid of the grave are not my own, but some apparition, is it my fault? Can I be blamed? I think not. Number. For me to climb the summit of where this takes me, I must experience not mine, but Henry's ultimate arrival at the state of his horror, and yes, dear diary, his death. And so, Lieutenant, you might think I'm a fool to lay myself as if a sacrifice on a banquet table laid out upon the rancid corpses of my wife's parents. You might think I crave not love, but death, and you'd be right. You see, the processes of my disease have reached a frothing state of sheer agony. The angle of my repose leans so far as to twist my spine, as if from the blooded rags of a scullery maid. My internals have become only carrion for the hounds to gobble. I don't have long. I have a favor to ask. Perhaps the academies of police may offer you a deserved promotion should you solve the murder which I sense is forthcoming. My own. This letter serves as notice for each day when I rise before heading with Clarissa onto our sordid venture, the Bartholomew family mausoleum. I place the envelope containing this letter into my mailbox after the postman has arrived. When I hobble home after being released by my wife without venturing to a more paradisaical destination, I remove the envelope. With this letter in your capable hands, you know I did not return to the estate with Clarissa. I did not remove the envelope, and it was taken by the postman to reach you. If so, I have achieved my desire to trade pain for peace. I loved Clarissa. She was my dear wife, and I think you could say I have gone above and beyond to please her. But Clarissa, my dear wife, should not forgo the penalty of murder. She should pay the price. So go now. You may find me alive. If not, serve out to Clarissa her just due. Godspeed, Henry Wickens. Bad reflections. I am not a well person. That isn't easy to admit, even though I understand that it is important to acknowledge that as fact. I am convinced that it all started the night of the storm. After the lightning strike and subsequent power surge from the night before, Both washing machines at my apartment complex were on the fritz. It was a minor miracle that we had lost power for only a few minutes. And thank God, my expensive surge suppressors did their job. As a combined freelance writer/web designer, I rely heavily on my computers for my livelihood, and imagining even one of them electrically fried just makes my cringe. The electric shock that knocked me on my ass was the real highlight of the evening, though. Strong summer evening thunderstorms were nothing new for our small Midwestern city, but this one was particularly impressive. Blinding flashes lit the windows and booming thunder rolled and rattled the panes every few minutes. Not wanting to rely on the surge devices exclusively, I decided to quit working and power all my equipment down. Reaching down and unplugging the main computer power feed at the critical moment when the lightning-induced surge came through, I actually saw as well as felt the arc as it jumped from the wall outlet, first following the cord, then my hand as I pulled the plug out. It was quite a jolt, knocked me back a few feet and flat onto my back. I don't think I lost consciousness, but my whole body tingled, and I smelled an ozone smell for hours afterward. Probably should have gone to the doctor just to get checked, but I'm mid-20s and still have some lingering adolescent male invincibility delusions, so I figured I'd survive and blew it off. Lugging dirty laundry down to the basement had never been one of my favorite pastimes, but add carting it a few blocks journey through the neighborhood, and you have a whole new level of annoyance. Nonetheless, there I sat the next day, but already in a state of commingled pain and numbness from just a few minutes in the rock-hard, cracked pink plastic chair, a new John Scalzi sci-fi in hand. So far, the background noises of the machines and other patrons, including not one but two screaming toddlers, had prevented me from successfully reading a single page. A short eternity later, the washer containing my first load, quite spinning, and sounded a brief buzz to alert me that it was done. Even though the laundromat was moderately crowded, I was lucky that there was an open dryer just opposite my washer, so I dutifully drug myself out of the torture device masquerading as a chair and headed across the room. I bundled a large armful of my socks and tighty-whities, turned and dexterously flipped open the dryer lid, only to receive another shock to my hand, this one thankfully much milder than the one from the night before. It still startled me, though, and I yelled as I dropped my armload of clothes. Son of a bitch! A room full of eyes shifted my direction. Sorry, I mumbled to no one in particular, returning to my chores. After finishing, I returned to my poor man's pink throne, determined to blot out all distractions and read. 5 minutes later, I was vegetating, staring aimlessly about the laundromat. That was when I first saw it, a hole where no hole should be, reflected in the convex glass door of the ancient washing machine directly across the room from where I sat. I thought at first it was a smudge or even a ding in the glass, but then I noticed the same anomaly replicated in the machine door on either side of this one. The more I examined it, the reflected dark spot, if that's what it was, seemed to float behind me, down near the floor. But when I turned to look, there was nothing. Over the next few hours, I washed and dried 3 loads, returning to watch the spot in between each. If I looked closely enough, I thought I could see it moving ever so slightly, sort of swirling and undulating. There was a hypnotic effect to it, so much so that the mother of one of the screaming kids had to poke me to let me know my last load was done. Finally finished, I stuffed my clothes into a couple pillowcases that were serving as laundry bags and staggered blurry-eyed from the building. Once outside, my head somewhat cleared, and interest in my recent temporary fixation began to wane. My focus turned instead to contemplate the work that I was now seriously behind on. thanks to the storm and extended laundry duties, as I headed for home. Walking up the steps to my building, momentarily fumbling for my keys, I caught sight of my reflection in one of the glass windows that outline the main doorway, and I froze. The spot, or whatever the damn thing actually was, had somehow followed me. I stared in confusion. It didn't seem possible, yet there it was unmistakably in the reflection, hovering in the same vicinity behind me and just above the ground, like it had appeared before. I spun my head around, and just like before, there was nothing to be seen behind me. Against my better judgment, I spun my attention back to examine the reflection in the window. The spot was indeed there, but it had changed. While I had been walking home, it had grown larger and had begun to emit flashes of light from its swirling center. Just a speck appearing here and there, briefly shining through before the undulating mass rolled and blotted it out again. And along with the reflection, there was now an accompanying sound, a faint tinkling, like a set of wind chimes coming from the direction of the spot. Unlike chimes, though, that came and went randomly with the wind, these played a melodic tune. Their cadence captured my attention, the rhythm lulling me into a trance. I listened, and I stared. For how long, I couldn't say. With some effort, I pulled my gaze away from the window and the spot, focusing down on my now clenched hands. The chimes cut off cleanly as the spot slipped from my peripheral vision. Fear replaced my confusion. I quickly unlocked the door and hurried inside, my heart pounding out a trip hammer beat. I needed to get to my apartment, but avoid anything reflective along the way. The elevator was out of the question, so I kept my head down and headed for the stairs. The stairway provided temporary safety, with its dingy, concrete steps and unadorned walls. My apartment was on the 3rd floor. As I climbed, I began to inventory the hazards that still awaited me. Once inside my own door, there lurked a multitude of windows, pictures, and mirrors, both big and small. TVs, appliances, and even my computers, and all had to be avoided. I reached my door without incident and took a few moments to calm my nerves. As I waited, I couldn't help questioning the reality of what I thought had just happened. Was I really cowering outside my own door, in the hallway I had traversed countless times, afraid of seeing some malevolent object in anything reflective? I tried to tell myself that this was foolishness, akin to a kid afraid of the dark for no apparent reason other than it wasn't light. Or was there a better explanation? The shock during the storm. That had to be the cause, I reasoned. Maybe some brain damage, not much, but enough to make me see spots and floating objects that weren't really there, and hear things that weren't there either. Why not? I had not quite, but almost convinced myself that this could all be rationally explained. I still wasn't ready to raise my line of sight above floor level, but I entered the apartment much calmer than I had been only moments before. I thought about the little kid me again, afraid of the dark, and remembered walking through the house turning on all the lights, telling myself that even though I wasn't really afraid, the lights were just a harmless precaution. With that as my mindset, I retrieved a handful of towels and blankets and proceeded through my apartment, covertly covering anything reflective as I went. Collapsing at my desk, having covered my monitors with a sheet, I started theorizing how I could live like this until I could get to a doctor for help. I rationalized, even if the spot wasn't real, I still had to deal with its effects until I could be assured that it was gone. As I was ticking off tasks needed to stay functional, disable monitor screensavers, figure out how to go out in public, maybe wear a hoodie with the strings pulled tight to minimize my field of view, my phone rang. I reflexively reached for it out of habit and had just enough time to register that it was my mom calling before I saw it again, reflected in the dark glass of my cell phone. It floated higher now, and it was still growing, perhaps balloon-sized now. I could see variation in colors, shades of gray to black, swirling and heaving in rippling folds. The flashes of light had increased their brightness, still appearing briefly in the dark mass before being reconsumed. The chimes returned as well, grabbing my attention so completely that answering my mother's call was beyond my capabilities. I watched and listened, unsure whether sight or sound was the more compelling sensation. As my phone ringing stopped, I heard another sound, low and hidden underneath the chimes. There was nothing melodic about this new sound, and it struck a fresh fear into my mind. It resonated wet and heavy, like some ancient Lovecraftian god of old dragging itself from dark, mysterious depths. As I listened, the chimes clashed with the new noise in a strange auditory battle for supremacy. As I watched, the spot slowly grew. I could see it changing in the reflection, but knew it was occurring behind me, and at the same time, knew that there would be nothing there to see if I had been able to turn and look. Rigid with fear, I couldn't look away, helpless to alter my situation. As I sat incapacitated, a fresh horror arose. Like soft tendrils at first, I sensed what felt like a pair of many-fingered hands creep over my shoulders and down my chest. Their caress was almost sensual as they moved down to me waist, where the sensation changed to a grip. There was no real strength in the ghostly hands, but the feeling was inexplicably drawing me backward, back to where the spot awaited. Sensual became coaxing, coaxing turned to seductive, then finally approached insistence. Unable to resist, I tried rolling myself backward as I sat in the desk chair. The chair casters did not turn smoothly against the carpet, or I might have succeeded in my retreat to God. Only knows what fate the spot had planned for me. As I flexed my legs to overcome the drag of the carpet, my loving yet meddlesome mother came to my rescue. I hadn't answered her previous call, and she hadn't left a message. Her routine in such situations was to wait 10 minutes and call again, using the time to compose an appropriately thoughtful, yet guilt-inducing message to leave. The phone chirped loudly in my hand, enough to startle me and cause me to drop it. Luck being on my side for once in my life, it landed screen down. I pulled a slew of papers, coasters, and even a dirty plate off my desk, whatever was within reach, to cover it. The onslaught had ceased in a flash. I spent the rest of that night living like a blind man. I tied a shirt around my head for a blindfold and wore it constantly, not trusting myself to just keep my eyes closed. Somehow, with face recognition and Siri's help, I managed to call and check the hours for the urgent care facility a few blocks away, my plan being to arrive as the doors opened in the morning. After inexplicably getting a few hours sleep, mostly from exhaustion, and having neither eaten nor showered since the previous morning, I found myself contemplating just how best to navigate walking the 6 blocks to the doctor. I couldn't very well walk down the street blindfolded, so I had employed my hoodie idea. With the opening pulled down to just an unnerving few square inches, I ventured out. Other than sideswiping a garbage can and nearly colliding with a couple of emerging coffee shop patrons, my tunnel vision trek was proceeding without any serious issues until I needed to cross the main road. So far, I had only encountered side street intersections with little to no traffic at this hour, but the medical facility was on the opposite side of the 4-lane. As I waited at the light, head down and listening for the chirping noise that told me it was safe to cross, I reassuringly told myself that I was going to make it. that the doctor would scan my head, prescribe a pill, or send me to some specialist who would know exactly how to cure what ailed me. Having made it this far unscathed, I was feeling just a sliver of optimism as the chirp came and I stepped into the street. I may have been distracted, or it may have made no difference. I heard a motor racing, just a bit, to my right. Nothing particularly menacing, but enough to draw my attention. Just like answering the phone, I instinctively looked up ever so slightly to assure myself that I wasn't about to be run over, and there it was. A spotlessly clean storefront window, advertising the coming fall fashions. Spotless, that is, except for the spot I had been avoiding. The result was instantaneous. The ethereal chimes and fearsome dragging sounds, the forceful groping fingers upon my chest, urging me backward, and the sight of the ever-growing, surging spot itself, all manifested collectively. Reflected in the glass, the spot now loomed, grown larger than me. Its depths beckoned, its darkness seductive. I stopped, then reversed direction in the crosswalk, shuffling backward toward the maw of the thing that had been pursuing me. I was a part of the reflection this time, and I watched as my fate unfolded behind me. The flashing lights became blue-white arcs, dancing wildly just behind me, reaching out to welcome me or strike me dead, I knew not which, when a delivery truck pulled to the stoplight and blocked the window from my view. Released, I collapsed. Horns blared, onlookers undoubtedly gawked, and a young girl actually stepped up and asked me if I needed help. I ignored them all, abandoning my optimistic hopes for a medical miracle cure. I staggered to my feet, pulled my hoodie strings tighter, and ran. I desperately wanted to run away, but how can you run away from a reflection? From an entity that follows you always? So I ran toward something, or rather somewhere. I ran blindly to the laundromat. It made no logical sense, but logic had been left far behind sometime yesterday. As I had laid awake last night, my mind had reeled through scenarios, causes, and plans for what had been happening. The doctor had remained as Plan A. My Plan B made no sense whatsoever, but it flowed forward like a lifeline as I ran. Miraculously, I arrived at the laundromat without being run over or seeing another reflection. The laundromat hadn't opened yet, but that wasn't going to deter me. I pried the painted metal top off a public trash can, and with my eyes closed, beat it against the front window until it shattered. I carefully crawled through and headed for the door in the rear of the building, marked Employees Only. It was thankfully unlocked. Once inside, it took little time to find something that would serve my purposes. A large screwdriver in an old toolbox. Back in the laundromat was an array of electrical panels mounted on the back wall, variously marked high voltage, danger 220/208 volts, or just electrical hazard. I had noticed these while gazing idly about the room the day before. Without hesitating to think, I pried the door open on the largest of the panels, held the screwdriver by the metal blade to assure good contact, and jammed it across the incoming leads. And woke up here in the hospital in the psychiatric ward about 2 weeks ago. Guess you know the rest, Doc. I refused to open my eyes until anything reflective was removed from the room, the curtains drawn. Not sure what else I demanded, but I got sedated for it. I do remember. Under the care of your colleagues, though, I'm calmer and less prone to delusions. In just this short time, I've progressed to where I can actually look at myself in a mirror. I don't like to, but I can do it. Well, you do seem to have made incredible progress, Mr. Buchanan. Please, just Jerry. Okay, Jerry. And I did want to apologize again for you getting shuffled about here a bit. We seem to have quite the rash of absenteeism lately. I hope there isn't anything contagious being passed around. Oh, I'm sure you'll get to the bottom of it, Doc, I said, rising and extending my hand. I wanted to thank you and your team again for all you've done. As he reached out to shake my hand, he flinched his own. Oh, got a little shock from you, Jerry. Yeah, that happens. Probably just static. Don't tell anyone, it keeps following me. All the time. I've been feeling it for days now. This eerie sensation of being watched. This morning, an envelope slipped under my door. No name, no return address, just a single line written in red ink. Come to the garden on Elm at midnight. Don't be late. My first thought was that it was a prank, maybe a mistake. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. I felt that same strange, heavy sensation in my chest, the feeling of being watched. Whoever's been following me wants me to come to this meeting. I should ignore it. It's driving me mad, circling in my head over and over. It doesn't make sense. Why would anyone ask me to meet them in a garden I've never visited? I don't leave this room. I can't leave this room. The thought of stepping outside makes my chest tighten like the poisonous air. The walls aren't walls anymore. They're closing in, pressing closer each day, shrinking until no room is left. I can feel a slow constriction, like the tightening grip of a snake coiling around my chest. It was there again. I felt its rancid and sour breath hovering just behind my neck, the cold seeping into my bones, the buzzing crawling under my skin, burrowing deep, an itch I can't reach, is maddening. I dug my nails into my arms again and tore at the skin until the blood flowed warm and sticky. It hurt, but I didn't stop. The red smeared against the white of the sheets like some twisted artwork. I laughed. I laughed because the pain reminded me I was still here, that I wasn't gone yet, not entirely. But the blood, the warmth, it didn't last. It never does. The cold always comes back, dragging me under. I've spent the whole day staring at the envelope, trying to make sense of everything. What does he mean, don't be late? I opened the envelope earlier, but it only made things worse. Inside was a single photograph, a picture of me, taken through the window of my room. The timestamp showed it was taken 2 nights ago, right around when I started feeling like I was being watched. But my room doesn't have a window. It is still me in that photograph. But how? October 12th. I didn't go. I don't know why. I sat here, staring at the clock, watching the minutes crawl by until midnight came and went. I couldn't move. My legs felt heavy like they were stuck to the floor. The envelope is still here where I left it, taunting me. I can't shake the feeling that I wrote it. It's ridiculous. Why would I send something to myself? I checked my desk drawer where I kept my pens and paper, but they were all where I left them. Still, that handwriting is mine. I know it is. I can't deal with that right now. I didn't sleep last night. Or maybe I did. I can't tell anymore. The line between waking and dreaming has blurred into a haze like thick and endless fog rolling in from the sea. I lie there, staring at the ceiling, counting the cracks. They're growing, splintering outwards like delicate spider webs. I wonder if they'll reach me, if they'll come down in shards of plaster and dust, burying me alive. I wouldn't mind. When I close my eyes, I see it clearer now. The dark mass, the shape it takes. God, it's horrific. It's all wrong. Its body is twisted, its limbs are too long, joints are bent at impossible angles, and the skin is slick and black like oil, dripping. And its face, or what should be a face, it shifts, twisting like clay, eyes forming then disappearing, mouths opening and closing, filled with rows of jagged teeth. It stood at the foot of my bed last night. I felt it staring, even though there were no eyes. The weight of its gaze crushed me into the mattress. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My heart pounded so loud I was sure it would burst out of my chest. I could feel it feeding off that fear, growing stronger, reveling in my helplessness. October 13th. I didn't take the pills today. They're trying to poison me. I see it in their eyes when they hand them to me. Their fake smiles stretched too thin. The red-haired one, she's the worst. She is always cheerful. She thinks I'm too far gone to notice. But I do. I notice everything. She came by earlier. I didn't like the way she looked at me, like I'm an animal. I smiled back at her and watched her flinch. She thinks I'm docile, but she doesn't know. She doesn't know what's been following me, what's been whispering in my ear. The envelope's still here, on the nightstand, staring at me. Why can't I stop thinking about it? Why can't I just let it go? The garden on Elm. It's not real. I know that. I know I never wrote it. But sometimes, in the quiet moments, I wonder. What if it's me? What if I've been sending these things to myself all along? Number. That's impossible. I wouldn't do that. I scratched at the walls today, tried to tear them down and tried to escape. I could feel it closing in, but the walls wouldn't give. My fingers bled, my nails broken, but the walls held firm, cold, and unforgiving. I could hear it whispering through the cracks. I can't understand the words, but know they're meant for me. October 14th. The feeling was more vital and intense today. It's getting closer and more aggressive. Every step I took, every corner I turned, was right there. The light stretches it out, twisting it longer and pulling it closer until I feel drowning. I've feared so many things, but nothing like this. It started when I was a kid. My stepfather had this way of punishing me when I did something wrong. He'd shove me into the closet in the basement and lock the door. I can still hear the click of the lock, that final sound before the darkness swallowed me whole. And I remember the worst day. The day it came. It was one of the longest times he'd left me there overnight. I don't remember what I did to deserve it. The punishment lasted longer than usual. I screamed at first, banging on the door, but no one came. They never did. The darkness wrapped itself around me, smothering my cries. It was like a blanket of silence, pressing in closer and closer until the only sound I could hear was my own heartbeat, frantic in my chest. The hunger came first, gnawing at my insides like a rat chewing through bone. Then, the thirst. My lips cracked, and every breath was dry and sharp. The need to go to the bathroom hit next, but I held it for hours, clutching my stomach, praying he'd let me out. But he didn't. Eventually, I couldn't hold it anymore. The urine soaked into my clothes, warm and humiliating at first, then cold and stinking as it mixed with the damp, musty air of the closet. The smell filled the tiny space, suffocating me and burning my nose. I cried, not from pain, but from the shame, the filth. And then, hours later, or maybe minutes, I don't know, that happened too. I had nowhere to go. I couldn't hold it. The shit pressed out of me, warm and sticky, and I felt it spread beneath me as I sat on the wooden floor. The smell was unbearable. My skin crawled with it, with the filth of my own body betraying me, trapped in that black hole of a closet. And that's when I felt it. I can still remember the exact moment. The darkness had changed. It wasn't just empty anymore. It was watching me. It was alive. The air had shifted and thickened, like something had slipped into the closet with me. I froze, my body trembling, my throat dry and raw from screaming. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat like a drum, slow and sickening. I couldn't see it, but I knew it was there. I could feel it hovering just out of reach. A presence. It wasn't like the darkness that had always terrified me. It was something far worse, something that was feeding on my fear, on the filth, on the weakness I had become. That's when I first sensed it. Whatever it was, it had slipped into my world and has never left me. October 15th. The nurses, they're scared of me now. I see it in their eyes, how they flinch when I move too quickly, and how they talk in hushed whispers just outside my door. They think I don't notice, but I do. The way they look at me, like I'm a rabid dog, something to be caged and kept away. Good. The reddish nurse came again today. Her smile is unnatural, stretched so tight it looks like it might split her face open. She handed me the pills. Blue ones this time. I took them from her and felt their weight in my hand. But I didn't swallow them. I smiled back at her. Pulling the corners of my mouth up like that felt strange. My face was stiff, unused to the motion. I wonder if she noticed. I let the pills slip from my hand and watched them fall to the floor, bouncing once or twice before disappearing into the shadows. The shadows have been moving more lately, creeping across the floor like they're alive and hungry. I like to watch her bend to pick it up. Every time, her skirt hikes up just enough for me to see the curve of her thighs, the pale skin peeking out from beneath the hem. She does it deliberately. I know she does. She thinks I'm a vegetable, a shattered man with a broken mind locked away inside my own head. She thinks I don't notice. But she's wrong. She doesn't know I'm not alone. I've never been alone. So, she was honestly surprised when I knocked her to the floor. It wasn't hard. She's small, fragile. Her eyes widened, lips parting in shock as I grabbed her and shoved her down. Her breath hitched, a sharp air intake, and I could feel the excitement, the pulse of something dark and wild rushing through me. It wasn't me. I wasn't in control. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. I didn't want to hurt her. It wasn't me. It was the thing that's been with me all along. The thing that's been watching now, waiting and feeding. It pushed me, whispered in my prank ear, and told me what to do. I didn't have a choice. She cried out, but the buzzing in my head and the ticking clock muffled her voice. I could barely hear her. I could scarcely feel her anymore. Everything was slipping away, fading into the hum, into the dark. It's inside me now. I can feel it crawling under my skin, controlling my wants and thoughts. It's too late. I can't stop it anymore. I'm laughing again. I can't help it. The sound bubbles up from deep inside me, harsh and cracked. It echoes off the walls, filling the room. The nurse looks up at me with wide, terrified eyes, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She doesn't understand. She will. They all will. October 16th. I woke up choking on my own breath. It was standing over me, I swear. A dark mass, shifting, warping, like it was trying to decide what shape to take. My body was frozen. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. All I could do was watch as it hovered, staring, the cold of it seeping into my skin like ice. It didn't touch me. Not yet. But I couldn't feel it anymore. So close. I've heard about sleep paralysis. The doctors like to throw that term around like it explains everything. But this was different. It wasn't a hallucination. It wasn't a dream. It was real. It was there, watching me with eyes that didn't exist. I laughed. I couldn't help it. The laugh just bubbled up out of me, desperate, choking. I laughed because what else could I do? What else do you do when the thing following you for years finally finds its way into your room? They put me in isolation after that. She said I was disturbing the others. I was screaming, they said, but I wasn't. It was the laugh. It's funny, really. It's funny how no one else sees it. The lights flickered today. I counted the seconds between the flickers. 3, then 5, then 8, then 1. Erratic. Like something was playing with the switch. It's toying with me now. That's fine. Let it play its game. I scratched at my arm until the skin broke. The nurses tried to stop me, but I didn't care. I needed to feel something. The pain is real. The blood is real. Thick, warm, dripping down my fingers. I let it pool in my palm for a moment, staring at warmth. It and watching it glisten in the pale light. It's funny how thirsty you get. I tasted it, just a little. Just enough to remember what it feels like to be alive. It tastes like metal, sharp and bitter, but it's mine. They found me after that and tried to patch me up, but they couldn't stop me from bleeding. They can't stop what's already inside me. The buzzing is louder now. It's deafening. October 17th. The walls. They're wrong today. I don't know how to explain it, but they feel different. The texture is off, as if the paint is peeling away to reveal something underneath. I scraped at the surface until my fingers bled again, nails tearing against the plaster. I had to know. I had to see what was underneath. It was hollow. Behind the walls was nothing, just darkness, an endless void stretching out forever. I could feel the pull of it, dragging me in and whispering promises of relief and escape. But it's a lie. I know what's really waiting in that darkness. It's there, waiting for me to slip. I won't. Not yet. October 19th. Everything is sharper today. The edges are too bright, too hard. The air smells of chemicals, bleach, ammonia, and something sweet and sickly. I gagged when I woke up, the stench clinging to my skin and the sheets. The buzzing in the light is louder than ever, a constant hum that vibrates through my teeth, rattling my bones. I saw it again this morning, not just a flicker. No, this time, it was there, fully formed, standing in the corner, watching, waiting. Its face, oh God, its face, was mine, twisted and distorted, like looking into a broken mirror, the features all wrong, stretched, eyes too big, mouth too wide, filled with jagged teeth. I screamed. I screamed until my throat was raw, and my voice gave out, but no one came. No one heard me. They never do. Do you hear that? No, you don't. You're sitting there, comfortable, safe, reading this like it's just the ramblings of a madman. But you're wrong. It's not me that's crazy. It's you. You don't see it yet. But you will. You'll feel it soon enough. It's always there. Waiting. Watching. Lurking in the corners, just beyond the light. I'm sorry for you. I really am. You'll understand soon enough. You'll realize it's been watching you too. It'll slip into your room and mind, just like it did with me. And when it does, when you finally see your shadow, don't be stupid. Don't be like me. They won't believe you, and it'll only make it stronger. Be clever. Be silent. Lifer. The parking lot was empty, except for dry weeds squeezing up through cracks in the asphalt, except for the deserted, rusting basketball hoop on one end. except for rustling leaves skittering across fading parking spaces in the gathering dusk, except for oil spots shimmering with rainbow colors after a recent sprinkling. The parking lot was empty. And because fate is resourceful, a steady, gloomy rain started falling, blurring any hope of discovering the mysterious body called in by an anonymous tip. "What's in the corner by that dilapidated chain-link fence?" my partner, Andy, asked. "Looks like piles of garbage bags being buried by soggy leaves from here," I answered. "I'll circle around for a closer look." "I detect movement. Do dead bodies move?" "Nah, just rats crawling all over." "Better get out and take a good look. Bummer the rain is getting worse, and the wind is picking up, turning this into a chilly, miserable autumn evening. Not even a sliver of a moon. Why is that always the way when a body shows up?" Andy complained. "Can't we simply call the coroner's office to come claim the neatly wrapped package?" "They would love that and have our badges if it turned out to be nothing more than trash. We gotta confirm whatever it is. Sorry. Get your slicker on and take your flashlight. I'll be ready to call it in." I pulled the squad car up as close as I could as he prepared to exit. Suddenly, lightning flashed. Thunder pealed as a hail of bullets pounded the passenger side. Andy fell back inside his head, exploding and pouring gray matter all over me and the upholstery. Reacting instinctively, I spun out of the lot, laying new rubber on the old asphalt and bumping over the crumbling center meridian, at the same time trying to figure from which gaping windows in the 4-story abandoned factory building the bullets were spewing, cursing under my breath. "F***ing prank call! How can this be happening?" Collecting my scrambled wits, I squealed a UI about half a block away and paused on the side of the street, looking back at the front of the building. Like rats abandoning a sinking ship, perps were scurrying out of doors carrying backpacks and rolled-up bedding. They appeared homeless, but any of them were potential suspects, and they were all getting away along with the weapons while I was on the horn to Central. Like a crazy man possessed, I ground into gear and plowed ahead, showering taser rays from my weapon, aiming at legs to slow them down. So what if I hit a few with my bumper? We would need witnesses. "Officer down, send armored SWAT," was all I remember shouting into the mic. I sped out of retaliation range and waited for backup, not knowing if any would be available. All I wanted to do was hold what was left of my friend and partner. An 18-year veteran of the force, he was already looking forward to retiring and spending more time with his beautiful wife, Jolene, and his teenaged sons, Andrew Jr. and Joshua. I remember watching those boys grow up. How am I ever going to face them? As the senior officer, I'm the one who was supposed to be protecting him. Instead, I delivered him into a hail of bullets. We let our guard down, dear boy. I don't have anyone waiting at home for me. Why couldn't it have been me with a new hole in the head? It can't even be an opened casket. No mortician can put the pieces back together. Bleak rain continued to fall into the chill autumn night, highlighted by blue and red strobing lights and streaking lightning punctuated by thunder. By the time the captain and lieutenant got there, I know I looked like a blubbering idiot, shivering and quaking. More squads and a special weapons van soon arrived. Don't go in there without armor and shields. I think it was a deliberate ambush set up to kill as many police as they could. Got a fake tip about a body being found. But we were supposed to deliver the bodies. I'd say the bullets were coming from the 2nd and 3rd floor broken windows, but so many people scrambled out of the building, you may not find any evidence. Still, someone could be waiting to claim more victims. I put a few down out front. Gotta go find some more. Bet those defund the police activists are happy with this carnage. Force is already down to bare bones, Slim odds we'll be able to round up all 'em. Easy, Cooper. Look at yourself. You hit it all? You've done all you're going to do tonight. Lieutenant Kramer and I will handle it from here. Someone will assess how you're doing while we assess the situation, Captain Crane commanded. Soon, ambulances were on the scene with emergency medical technicians attending to those witnesses I hit and myself. Bloody, headless Andy was scooped into a body bag, and our pockmarked unit was hauled in for evidence. Ignoring all my protesting, I was delivered to the hospital and examined for holes. Hard to determine what was me and what was pieces of Andy. Really, Doc, I'm still in one piece. Only need to clean the gore off. I'll be all right. You're shaking like a leaf ready to fall. When I'm done with you, I'll assign a trauma evaluator before you crash and burn. Losing a partner like that will have long-term effects if left unaddressed. Doctor's orders. Time off while you see a therapist. I'll have the support of all the guys in the precinct. I'm not sure about a shrink, but I promise you, I'm gonna be someone's worst nightmare once I get back on the street to find the monsters that riddled us. They don't understand what they've created. I'll never retire. I'm a lifer now. You can bet. Gonna rain long-term regrets down on them. Bob Barker and the price of cookies. If Bob Barker was dead, he apparently was making the most of it. Bev checked the date on the magazine, guessing this bundle of BLTNs had gathered dust on some post office loading dock until some chuckle-headed awoke from their civil service coma. November 2024. She angrily brushed the white hair from her eyes as the early November winds buffeted the mailbox bank, then located the mailing label that cheapened the high-tone, heavy matte cover. Bev's old stylist had been a pretentious little bee with a stack of thick, chic, hoity town and countries in the waiting area, hoping to attract a classier clientele to her shitty little dump of a shop next to the campus Domino's that smelled perpetually of pepperoni and perms. Upshot was, somebody was going to have to get their hot goss at the Gas End Gulp or the Great Clips like a normal peon this month. Thanks. Beverly L. Tryon, 107 Oakline Drive, Millington, Illinois. Bev blinked and re-examined the other two cover boys. She was pretty sure Jimmy Buffett had sailed off into the sunset not too far back. Her hairball ex would have held a 3-day wake for the man if he hadn't already cracked his parrot head 3 Februaries back on his way from the VFW to the Moose after the last of the vets cut him off. The Legion already had turned off the spigot, and Lend canned the VA shrink halfway into intake, opting instead for his former wife's counsel to grow a set and just get over yourself. The third didn't ring a bell with Bev. Dimly familiar old black guy who sported at least a 5-pack, and who might have been handsome if, well, you know. Whoever he was jamming out on some unnaturally white beach with the purportedly late Price is Right host and the patron saint of every midlife mess who'd ever dropped the mortgage on a PT Cruiser. By the way, apparently not J.D. Power's top pick for surviving a collision with anything much larger than a pop-top. She read on. Come on down. The 3Bs rock their second anniversary with Rita's and Rhythm in Paradise. Bob Barker raises the curtain on his mega canine rescue and personal crusade against poverty, while Jimmy Buffett and Harry Belafonte share their greatest hit island recipes, including the greatest cheeseburger this side of paradise. Bev frowned as a dead maple cottonwood cyclone teased her varicose ankles. She didn't care for Bob's new tarnished silver mane, and the alto sax was certainly a new one on her. Buffett wailed on his Martin guitar, part of a treasury of parrot head trivia she'd inherited along with the deed to a charred cube of Cruiser. Belafonte she now recalled from the piece-of-shit Beetlejuice movie her daughter had dragged her to after the divorce. Only good part of the idiotic, blasphemous thing though now she recalled that when he wasn't slapping the bongos, Harry was a major troublemaker, one of those. "I thought he was dead." Bev heard her own cervical pop as she whipped irritably around to find 109 craning over her shoulder. Though she'd ascertained ownership, Bev hugged the slippery magazine protectively to her chest. "If I could just..." the maddeningly tall old busybody next door mumbled as she attempted to reach around Bev's compact girth. Bev leapt back, and the amazing 6-foot woman scooped an impossible stack of catalogs and political flyers from inside her narrow Ace Hardware box. Bev suspected she was a libtard. She kept a patch of weeds and hay between their houses with a sign about how she was a friend of the butterflies. The city wouldn't do anything about it. "Must be some kind of marketing campaign," 109 chirped, extracting her own sleek BLTN from the pile. "What do you think that stands for?" "Probably like AARP, but I got that Saturday." "Huh, addressed to me. Weird. Maybe the O people sold my name to a mailing list." Bev's jaw tightened. Her neighbor tapped her ET forefinger on the mailing label. "See that in the corner? 1/7. 7 freebies to lure us in, then the sales pitch." God, I thought Belafonte was dead. You know, my mom actually met him during one of Dr. King's marches. "I'm freezing my ass off. Later," Bev grunted, scuttling across the street, narrowly averting a Domino's driver who apparently thought 30 minutes or it's free was a personal code rather than a desperate marketing plea. The card floated to the olive shag as she slammed the front door shut against 109 and the others, those who'd wormed into the downtown fringe with their hippie gardens and rainbow flags and black Antifa Lives Matter and socialist blue yard signs as her neighbors cashed in one by one. Steadying herself on the doorframe, Bev bent painfully to scrape the cream-colored card from the filth and fibers. "This subscription is a very special gift from Aileen. We hope you'll enjoy our thoughtfully curated articles," Bev snorted, "and that truly BLTN enriches your understanding and perhaps even your life. With love, Aileen." "Christ," Bev breathed, dropping into the threadbare Thomas recliner Len had neglected to include in the prenup. Aileen. There was a cousin Eileen on Dad's side, and 2 Count 'em Ellens. One a little cunt on the Millington High cheer squad who'd made her senior year a nightmare. The other a bigger cunt of a cousin on Len's roster who she hadn't seen since her ex's 40th. Bev studied the 4x6, logo-embossed card. She realized the signature was handwritten. That itself seemed hinky. The magazine had slipped between cushion and arm, and Bev cursed as she worked it free and flipped open the stiff cover. Barker stood, arms crossed, in an improbably green field under an impossibly blue sky, surrounded by seemingly thousands of people each holding a dog. Every color and size, humans and canines, and breeds Bev had never seen in her 30-mile radius of a life, or that show with that scrawny little Mexican Caesar Milano whatever. All dogs go to heaven, but Bob Barker wants all transcendents to have a forever home too. See page 10. As Bev polished off her Marie Callender's meal to share Italiano meat lasagna with a dessert combo of Barker and Buffett, she was certain she'd been scammed on some elaborate and epic level. The old bait and switch, Len would have called it, probably. What was the phrase? Catfishing her for her Discovery card information, or Social Security. Bev's old pal, Wikipedia, had confirmed Barker had died in August 2023, 1 cent short of 100 of the Alzheimer's. Unless they'd discovered some miracle cure for dementia and rigor mortis, Bev suspected somebody with a computer had deep-faked up the entire photo spread like they had at the Capitol back in 2021. Buffett had nibbled his last sponge cake about a month after Barker'd cashed in, and Belafonte's ticker'd kicked out in April the same year. Bev read on, forsaking NCIS and then NCIS and so on, to peruse Kirstie Alley and Olivia Newton-John's favorite John Travolta films. Not what you'd think. Latenu Lady's new stage production of something called A Raisin in the Sun, and a selection of Tom Clancy's latest poetry. The new Harper Lee and Raymond Chandler novels were coming out, and Roger Ebert reviewed Robin Williams' upcoming comedy. Throughout were more references to transcendence, something called shepherding that appeared to be some kind of Big Brothers, Big Sisters deal for adults, and other weirdo jargon with a Scientology-type vibe. By 10:30, Bev had bypassed the crossword for a last-page nightcap called BLTN Bites. At first, she recognized none of the 8 mugshots lined up along the bottom of the inside back page, and she fumbled her Walgreens cheaters on to see just what this shit was all about. I'd sacrificed my creativity for what I thought were family responsibilities when I actually had surrendered what I loved for family expectations. Now, I sacrifice nothing. Tina H. Shepherding has opened the doors that kept me in darkness as a husband and father. Sergio F. As I help heal tortured and guilty souls, the cries of the camps finally have begun to fade. Gerhard W. I'd tried to treat my wartime nightmares with liquor and marriage, except I was only chasing poison with poison and a toxic relationship. Leonard T. Bev paused at that last, scrutinized the accompanying thumbnail, a beaming, tanned, mustached man who appeared to have lost a good 40 pounds and a network of broken capillaries. Len seemed to be smiling up at her, not in contempt but with an infuriatingly pitying joy. Bev frisbeed the magazine across the living room. The second edition was in the mailbox Friday, slumming with the Miles Kimball/Harriet Carter catalogs and Subway and Arby's coupons. Doris Day, Grace Kelly, Janet Leigh, and big-boobed Kim Novak adorned the cover this time, sharing a jumbo bucket of popcorn under a theater screen filled with a doughy, inscrutable face. "We too!" the blood-red headline screamed. Hitchcock's blondes talk Weinstein, micro and macro aggressions, and traps and tips for tomorrow's Hollywood to-be-eyes. Bev's faintly glaucomic eyes did a full loop as she wondered what in the fuck a to-be was, and she turned from the trio of mailboxes before glancing about the dead, gray block and sneaking a peek inside 109. Beef and cheese and teriyaki chicken, Harry and David and Land's End catalogs, and 109's own copy of BLTN. Bev started toward 108's box, but a chipper voice shattered the frigid November air, and she tasted copper. "We have to quit meeting like this," 109 murmured, with a theatrically arched eyebrow, towering entirely too closely. "Oh, it's here. I was hoping. This would have been perfect for Thursday chemo." The WNBA's eldest draft pick looked more Panera's or Whole Foods than Arby's or Subway, pale and knobby and the color of chicken skin. "Shoot, I was hoping maybe you'd want mine," Bev lied, waving the glossy magazine. "You don't like it?" Uzdokas gasped. "I find it so affirming. You know everybody in there's dead, right?" "Everybody," Bev echoed. "Sick. I mean, what's the deal? Is this some kind of, what do they call it, cyber scam?" They don't have a website, I checked, so not really cyber. And if this is a scam, it's an awful expensive one, don't you think? Did you notice there are no ads, no information about subscribing? How do they pay for this whole production? You know what I think maybe this is about? Second chances, better choices, leaving regrets behind. You know what performance art is, right? I think maybe this is like performance journalism. Bev remembered how good fucking Len looked, considering his past stint as 240 pounds of flame-broiled road chuck. "I think you're batshit crazy," she snapped, struggling across the street with her slippery bundle with as much dignity as she could attempt to muster. Back in the cost-efficient, 60-degree comfort of her living room, Bev ripped through the December BLTN, scanning the names and faces of the dead. Cronkite, Winehouse, Plath, Walters, Shakur, Bogart, Cobain, Dr. King, Mr. Spock, the famous dead Kennedys building homes with Eisenhower, Johnson, Nixon, and a lanky and badly styled goateed fellow who, if Mrs. Werschnick's 5th grade history served her, had taken one in the balcony 40 and some odd more ago. This time, Bev snatched the card mid-flight, a gift from Aileen. Just between us. Aileen. The tone was indefinable, the silence that followed arctic. Bev stumbled backward against the recliner's arm. Nat, do you know any Aileen? Wasn't there an aunt on your dad's side? You never listened. Bev's daughter sounded a decade older, though it had been a little less than 3 years since they'd last exchanged a spoken word. What? You never listened. You couldn't hear anything through your anger and hate. You wouldn't hear anything. God Natalie's voice broke into harsh, strained sobs. The hell are you babbling about? Bev snapped even as her fingers trembled around the smartphone. Of course, it was us too. We wouldn't hear it. Him. Her. Oh, fuck. We thought we were the victims. We were the ones in pain. But you. Fucking you. Bev was now holding the phone in both hands, perched on the Thomas's arm as if suspended over infinite space. I'm not sitting here while you fucking cuss me out. You called me, Nat shrieked, gasping and now laughing murderously. After all this time, you called me to remind me what a poisonous, soulless, hateful old cunt you are. Well, her daughter panted. Well, I guess better late than never. Right? Right? The phone slipped from Bev's arthritic fingers as she fell back into the cushion, veined legs kicking, folded and trapped on her back like a tortoise wearing its carapace beneath the skin. Nat's unearthly rage and madness crackled somewhere in the deep green pile below, a blaze her mother was powerless to extinguish. Just between us. Before the evil took hold of him, it was their little joke. One more thumbprint cookie, an extra slice of Kroger cake or Baker's Square French silk before Mom scooped him up for supper. A reminiscence or chuckle her woke daughter would never have tolerated. We'll keep this our little secret, just between us. When Aiden finally confided in Grandma, he'd turned it against her, and she wasn't going to be extorted by a spoiled, sick 13-year-old. After it all began, after Aiden began spewing insanity, his vile inner thoughts and whinings, after the wheedling and fits and the pervert libtard shrink, and the constant trips to Chicago, and the financial realizations that threatened Paula's college, and the public displays and declarations, and finally the family's exile from holidays and even communications, the cookies and cake and the secrets had halted. When Bev herself banned the boy from her home, spitting his adopted pronouns back in his face, he'd called blubbering from one of his freak friends' phones to keep her from immediately ghosting him. He was alone. Dad would no longer speak to him. Mom had told him he was a selfish brat who'd made them outcasts. Aunt Nina told Mom, on speaker no less, that she couldn't have the girls exposed to such depravity, and the church in which Nat, Paula, and Aiden all had been christened had written to revoke God's blessing on the deity's behalf. Grandma, just between us, I kind of feel more and more like just killing myself. Bev also had received a Dear John, Luke, Matthew, Mark from the Second Millington Church of Jesus, though not from quite so far up the chain and merely punching her ticket to Tuesday night prayer and gossip and the coveted holiday potluck chairmanship. It had been months since Nat had so much as dropped her a check-in text, and the atmosphere at the Catholics' Thursday public bingo had dropped 20 or 30 degrees since Aiden's, parentally, unauthorized interview on the local AM morning show. Well, Bev had reflected, calmly, tonelessly, better late than never. Oh, of course, she couldn't blame herself. Like the literal drama queen Aiden had become demanding his true self, he didn't have, nor, as Bev had quipped, any longer had the stones to face the humiliation he'd brought down on his family, on his grandma. She had nothing to torture herself over. That was on the man with the swastika and Jesus tattoos who'd unloaded 7 slugs into the creature who was once her little guy in a Peoria LGBTQ health center lot to the tune of Genesis 1:27. Number it was the betrayal. Bev raged as she thrashed ineffectually to free herself from this final posthumous revenge, the effort sending jolts of pain up her left arm. He'd broken their pact, the little bastard. Or bitch. Finally, a young feminine voice pierced the growing fog. Bev blinked up at a figure perhaps not as lovely as Aiden had been handsome, but somehow far stronger. Better late than never, I guess. Miss? She'd been halfway down 107's weedy walk when she turned beaming to the gaunt, middle-aged woman gripping the porch rail next door, as if she were awaiting the first life raft. The long, frail neighbor woman was smiling uncertainly back, apologetic concern in her deeply sunken eyes. "Hello," the girl greeted in a rather low but somehow comforting tone. Instead of holding her stance in annoyed indecision or briskly crossing the scrubby turf between them to expedite the encounter, the young woman continued down the walk and took the sidewalk to 109. On closer examination, she was what some might call homely, slender but big-boned, crisp blue eyes, set perhaps a centimeter too far apart for standard, conformist beauty. But she moved with what Kelly's own mother might have called bearing, a confidence in who and what she was, and that whatever that was just, well, right. The girl waited at the bottom of the steps, inviting, inquiring, neither expectant nor demanding. "I didn't mean to disrupt your day," Kelly said. "I thought I might have heard something from, Beverly's a minute ago, and I just wanted to know everything was all right." "It is," the young woman smiled brightly. "So you're not..." I'd understood she had a grandson. She did. "And please don't be sorry. I was coming to see you next. You've received your complimentary BLTN, Mrs. Grambling?" Kelly's head tilted before the smile returned. "Well, yes, though I'd have to say I'm at a bit of a loss as to what exactly it is I'm reading. Full disclosure, I'm in no position for long-term subscriptions." The girl looked to the sky with a grin. "I guess, if I had to say, we're about second chances, better choices, leaving all regrets behind. Options. I'm kinda out of those." Kelly sighed. "Mrs. Grambling, do you have a minute to discuss options?" "I guess I have that. And please, Kelly..." "Aileen, how to go back. 2 years ago, I stared into the eyes of a little dead girl. She was sprawled on some highway, deep in what used to be the Midwest, her dead, fermenting eyes staring past me, and up, up, up into the sun-bleached sky. They didn't leave many bodies behind when they left, didn't want to find skeletons when they came back, I assume. Her skin was dark and leathery. There was a hole growing in her cheek. Blue tendrils came twirling out of the rotted, bony mass with those little orange tips. I wished they were green. I missed the trees, the grass. The closest thing to nature are the dead bodies with the synthetic viruses, eating themselves towards the clouds. puny fingernail scratches on deep blue skin. She might have been dead for 3 months, 6 at a stretch. The first thing I felt when I saw her was excitement. She was the closest thing I'd seen to another person in 6 years. My father's body had been more pristine, less infected by the now, a perfect conservation of the then. There was only the tight, red little hole in his temple, the pool of dark, sticky blood pooling around bits of his brain, staring at me like a sick, foaming, red-furred dog. His eyes were stained red by blood, and they sat uncomfortably in their sockets, dislodged by the force of a bullet tearing it all up behind them. He was smiling, a slash of red teeth, red eyes popping. I half expected them to flick towards me, half expected the revolver, still lying loosely in his palm, to fire a matching shot through my own temple. I was relieved when he killed himself, as I was when I saw the dark hole in that little girl's cheek. I took the gun, I took his shoes, I turned around, and I left. As I reached the crest of the yellow hill, I looked back at him, lying like roadkill on the highway, in the dead yellow grass, our truck lying upside down, smoking, a few feet away. I wiped blood from my forehead, and I pressed on, the sun belching like a toad-white bubble of heat that burst around me periodically. There was a similar gunshot in the little girl's calf that poked out from her purple nightgown. It was the nightgown that made me vomit. I heaved onto the tarmac. I heaved and I heaved. She was so young, the same age as me probably, when I left my father's corpse to rot in the fat white sun that turned the sky gray from its heat. It happened in the night, I thought, sitting on the tarmac, staring at the little dead girl. There were faint, sun-baked faint tire marks on the road. She had gone, I thought, so young. She died, seething with red-hot pain, alone in the inky night, not an inkling of who she once might have been. The sun was rising, the sky was losing her blue. The pile of vomit to my side would begin to cook soon, like a stinking goose egg in a frying pan. I stood up. I looked at her once more, a china doll, cracked up and fading in the sun. I turned my head back to the road, the tarmac melting into a black puddle on the horizon. It had been the last wink of winter that day. Or what would have been winter? My diary says so. March 3rd. It's almost definitely wrong. The last time I was really sure of the day, the month, the year, I was 9. The day the school caught fire and burned down. The village burned for a week. The school was first, a black plume into the purpley gray midday sky. The grass was already threadbare, yellow. The buildings were lazy, wooden shacks, standing crooked, haphazard, peeling rows like a pile of matches. It's difficult to build, gather materials, do anything at all when you swelter all day under a rock or in a shack waiting for the midnight hours. The village burned, and then Grandma picked up bleach on the exodus, and soon everybody was gone, my father on his way. That day, after seeing the dead girl, I had collected enough gas and food to wait out the summer in the caves. They were damp, dripping places if you went down far enough. It stank of rotted bodies, those who had starved or gone, but it was cool. It was dark. It was safer than third-degree burns and snarling tumors all summer long. I remember, I'd left it so late that I knew to stop driving and lie in the grass under the car. I usually passed out from the heat after an hour or so. When the sun was lower in the sky, orange and red, the sky green and pink, I poured water over myself, guzzled it through my cracked, bleeding lips. And then I drove, and I drove. I'd left it so late, so dangerously late, that towards the end of the journey they started appearing in the sky. Small black dots at first, but they got bigger. They're ships, full of, I don't know. Probably scientists in gray coats, watching, waiting for everything to die so they could start again. They're nothing but black pebbles in the sunset to me, and they disappear in the safety of the night. Black pebbles, no windows, no movement, no noise. They've no exhaust fumes, no visible sign of life. They just float calmly in the sky, black beads, watching as Earth eats itself like a coyote starving in the desert, picking at its own ribcage for morsels of its fleshy stomach. A stomach long gone. That little dead girl was a premonition, I suppose. It had been a silent, dissociative half-decade of white, silent heat. Each year dripped onto my lips like the last of the water in the hip flask I dangle now, as I speak, above my head. I should have been gone for the caves days ago. I stand on the roof of a gas station. It's midday. The sky is clear and gray. The yellow-brown plains sprawl outwards, forever on all sides. The highway cuts a black line down the middle. There's the occasional Lone Ranger, a telephone post in the distance, the hollow carcass of a tree. It's silent. So silent. Silence as deafening as a Red Sea, crashing down on my shoulders and burrowing into my dry, blistered throat. There's blood leaking from the blisters in my cheeks. It starts to boil slowly, etching teary burns down my chin, down my neck. I don't feel it. I don't feel anything. I'm a pair of eyes. I forgot the cave long ago. I've been waiting for this day. The last day of winter, the last wink. I hold my arms outstretched. From somewhere far away, much bluer and greener, much louder. If I squint, I can feel them burn like an old photograph on the campfire. The sensation starts to feel like rain, cold and relieving. I bleached myself intentionally. I went to one of the rotted bodies deep in the caves. A man. In the torchlight, his eyes were milky and half-closed, his mouth slack. There was a bottle of something that had rolled away from his right hand. There were foamy remnants on his lips. He reminded me of my little brother, Jeffrey. Maybe if he had grown up in the green and blue world, then he would have looked like that. I kissed his forehead. I began to forget not long after. It was sweet. It was like falling slowly asleep. From this nightmare. This fucking nightmare, I hear myself scream from far away, in the blue and green. I start to turn away now, as my legs begin to give out on the roof of the gas station. I can feel nothing holding out his hand. The blistered now is a universe away. Just before I turn and walk down the hill, the rain pouring onto my neck, blurring my vision into a sweet, comfortable gray, expansive, eternal gray. I see that little dead girl lying on the highway, sprawled out on the scorched earth. I smile as I slip away. I smile at her red, unblinking eyes, a wicked walk. Safety starts to feel like a myth when you're selling your body like it's a hanger for a clothing rack. This is me. Am I good enough for you? Are my legs thin enough? Or do they rub together too much when I walk? Do you like my eyes? My chin? Should I swing my hips or not? Do I have a boring face? An average body? I've even been told I was too pretty before. A pat on the hand, the way a child gets a bandage for a wound that nobody can see. Sorry, we're looking for uglier girls. You understand? No, I don't. The music is pumping in my ears so loudly I can't even hear my own footsteps or see the runway when I step onto it. I can feel it under my stilettos. That's all I have to go off of. I can feel the back of my dress is completely unzipped until about 3 seconds before I'm out there, bathed in neon purple light. Everything is distorted. I keep my gaze forward and focus on my hips, on my hands, on my steps, one foot in front of the other. A camera flashes somewhere, and everything is white for a fraction of a second. I blink, but my face doesn't move. The shoes are too small for me. I can already feel a blister forming. The music is so loud I can feel the bass rumble through my feet, vibrating through my body as I watch the model in front of me almost roll her ankle as she poses at the end. In my head I'm laughing, but on the outside I am poised, though admittedly I'm looking forward to hearing her get chewed out. Better her than me. I pose at the end, feeling every vein in my body shooting blood toward my heart, toward my brain, in time with whatever effervescent K-pop track this happens to be. It's in those 3 seconds that I stand there in front of everyone that I feel myself breathe, exhale, and then I'm holding my breath again, all the way until I'm behind the curtain. Backstage, everyone is running around. Girls cluster with stylists and makeup artists, their tits out, wearing nothing but a nude thong. You get used to this after a while. I too am out of my dress in a matter of seconds, disembodied hands moving over my form so quickly I don't even see who they belong to. Could be anyone. I realize as I'm looking around, I don't see the girl who almost tripped. She's nowhere to be found. That's impossible. She'd been right in front of me. Hairspray! Someone beside me yells, and then I'm bathed in that vaguely fruity aerosol scent, my ponytail getting re-slicked while someone else is barking at me for my name. Nobody ever knows anybody's name around here. We're all just bodies. Sabrina, I'm saying, and even as it comes out of my own mouth, it sounds unfamiliar. Foreign. I don't remember the last time I said it. They usually just give you a number, throw you in a line. Sardines stuffed into a tin, wet and glittering and completely indistinguishable from one another. The man who was yelling for my name is now sifting through a rack of clothing, all covered with black garment bags. They're marked with our names. Someone beside the first man is picking off multiple hangers, his lips pursed. They all say Amber. I wonder idly if Amber is the one who tripped back there. The man carries off what would have been Amber's looks and tosses them into a garbage can. I furrow my brows gently. This was a more low-grade show, underground you might say. But I'd never seen anyone throw away a designer's pieces over a shitty runway walk. I don't have any more time to think about this before they're shoving me up onto the runway again, a new pair of ill-fitting shoes on me. I hadn't even realized someone had changed them. I walk, now in a pair of shorts and a crop top. All the designs are white, pristine looking. In the club lights they have going, we all sparkle like mirages of snow in a desert. Somehow, we all look fresh, clean, cool. Our hair is slicked, our makeup is bright and colorful. My eyeshadow is bright orange, my lips dressed in a plum sort of shade. The eyes that look on take us in with lips pressed flat, hands folded in laps. They watch us waiting for a mistake, waiting for another Amber. It was never about the clothes. You can always feel it, the way they're watching each step you take as you pass by among the string of girls. One after the other, they clench their hands together tighter, like they're praying we fall. But there's no God here, that I know. We hold ourselves up, or we drop. As I'm walking, the music changes to a song with more guitar, even louder and more suffocating than the last. Another noisy tune that I'd never heard before, something club-esque and punchy. My steps stay uniform, elegant, and strong. I have tunnel vision for the model's head in front of me, so much so that I almost trip on the body. Amber. She's laid over the runway with a slice in her neck so deep the smell of thick, hot, metallic blood fills my nose as I step over her. I only glance at her for a moment. I keep walking. I keep walking as I'm thinking, is that fake blood? It can't be. The smell. And then the model behind me screams, a shriek that's barely audible over the sound of the music. Nobody in the audience shifts. They all just sit there, eyes forward, like mannequins. I dare to look down slightly again, and our heels are leaving behind trails of Amber's blood, the fluid glowing in the neon lights, contrasting the white we're all draped in. When I arrive backstage, the model who was screaming is being snatched from behind me, howling like an animal as multiple people keep her from running, caging her in. My heart is hammering in my chest as another pair of hands is undressing me again. I hear someone in my ear telling me how perfect I look out there, how I'm doing a flawless job. I don't say anything. I just flinch when I feel them running something wet all over me. I look down, and my bare chest is covered in red. It's still warm. Is it Amber's? I look over my shoulder, and the girl with the curly brown hair is being punched repeatedly in the stomach, crying out for help, reaching into the air toward where I'm standing. Nobody looks toward her, but me. I just look at her. I'm soaked in blood, the penny smell invading my nose so aggressively my stomach is curling in on itself. They don't even give me shoes, and then I'm up again, being shoved out of the curtain with nothing but my nude thong on, and whoever's blood smeared all over my sand-colored skin. Probably Amber's. For no reason at all, I walk. The music isn't even music anymore, it's just high-pitched buzzing. Nobody in the audience moves, but I do. I walk. I am the pillar holding all of this up. I am walking sex. I am red and beige and blonde. This is me. Am I hot enough yet? The blood is so hot. Do I look strong enough? Are my hips swaying properly? How are my eyes, my lips, my neck? Tell me I'm perfect. Nobody in the audience looks at Amber's body. Neither do I. Am I ugly enough yet? Yes. I walk, displaying her sacrifice on my skin, showing everyone what her sweat and tears couldn't keep inside her body. My steps get more and more confident as I step into the puddle again, the balls of my feet sticking to the runway as I leave new prints of red behind me. It doesn't hit me until I get to the end that I'm the only model out there, blood drying crusty onto my nipples, blood seeping into my underwear. When I pause at the end of the runway, there's another fluttering of camera flashes, much more explosive than before. White fills my vision, and then I'm turned around again, heading once more for that black curtain. The ringing in my ears is so loud. This is what they were waiting for. When I step behind the fabric, everyone backstage is facing me, as if they were waiting for me to finish. And then they clap, smiling superficially at me as I stand there, blood dripping down my thighs. The girl with the curly brown hair lays there against the wall with her ribs bashed in, her skull spilling out a red and gray mush that looks like discarded Jell-O salad. The other girls, who knows where the hell they went? Better them than me, insatiable darkness. Not the kind that comes when you close your eyes. This is something else, heavy, dense, like the world's been erased. It's pressing down, sinking through me. I can't breathe, can I? My chest should be moving, doing something. I don't know why I expect that. Then, something else. A noise. No, not a noise. A memory. I love you, babe. A woman's voice, warm, laughing. I can almost feel her next to me, see her face, smell her perfume, something like freshly peeled oranges. Gone. Just like that. I try to hold on to it, but it slips away like smoke. Something aches where the memory was, filling empty spaces, like something lost. Am I lost? No, I'm here. Here in the dark, here in the earth pressing in on all sides. It is cold, deep in my bones, in my flesh, No, it's wrong. I feel something slipping, a part of myself loosening, unraveling, sinking into the dark. I try to reach for it, to grab hold of me, but it's fading fast, sinking below the surface like a drowning man. I tell myself, I'm still here, I'm still someone, but it feels like a lie. Why can't I move? I try to lift an arm, a hand, anything, but everything's sluggish. My fingers claw at nothing, something below, above, heavy, settled. I should be moving, I should be. Then it hits me, clear and sharp, like a broken bone. I'm dead. I'm dead. I don't breathe. My chest is still cold, rotting. A surge of panic hits, a sensation I didn't know I could still feel. I close my eyes, or maybe they were already closed, and try to piece together bits of memory clinging to me. A bright day, a laughing face, a small sticky hand in mine. Gone. Gone before I can feel it. The weight around me presses harder, like the ground itself is claiming me, holding me down. I don't know how I know, but I know I shouldn't be here. Shouldn't be this. I should be someone else. Happy birthday. Her voice echoed through me, through the dark. I don't know who she is, but the words cut through me, raw. I remember her laughing, brushing a stray hair behind her ear, her eyes catching the light in that way that always made me stop and stare. She'd squeeze my hand and whisper, "You're my forever." The words are faint now, slipping away, but the warmth of them lingers, enough to hurt. I claw at the darkness. I don't mean to. I don't have to. My fingers curl through the dirt, tearing, dragging myself upward. My hands pull, dig, until I feel the damp, cold earth under my nails, grinding against bone. The part of me that still thinks cringes. The other part? It just keeps going. It's like I'm watching from far away, a thought pulsing through my mind. Get out. Get out. Not a choice, an order I can't ignore, from deep inside, where the human parts of me are fading fast. I don't know how long I claw, but the earth loosens above me, cold air seeping in, something other than the dirt. It's thin, stale, the first taste of the world outside, and it makes me feel alive. Alive and wrong. My head breaks the surface, and the night air hits me, sharp. I gasp, but the air scrapes through me like glass. The world is blurry, washed out under the moonlight. Grave markers surround me, jagged teeth against the sky. This is where I came from, where they buried me. I'm a corpse, crawling out of my own grave. The thought jolts, but it's distant, almost faint, like something I heard once and already forgot. Then that hunger, the one buried under memories, under voices, stirs, an ache deep in what's left of me, stronger than anything else. I push forward, not thinking, just moving, pulled by instinct, by the urge rising, undeniable. I'm dead. I'm broken. But I need something. I can't stop. I can't go back. The first thing I see, really see, under the sickly cast of the moon, is my hand, if you can call it that. It's a mess of sagging skin stretched over bone, torn in places, bits of muscle clinging to knobby joints, fingers twisted and rigid, blackened nails caked with dirt and something else I don't want to name. The sight, this thing I'm looking at, moving like it's mine, hits me like an electric shock, horror rushing up, strangling me. God, what am I? I try to scream, but all that comes out is a sound, low, guttural, inhuman, like an animal caught in a trap. My hand, my arm. No, this isn't my body. It can't be. The skin hangs in loose, rotting patches where it's not already gone, exposing sinew and yellowed bone. I look down and see my clothes, shredded, filthy, stained with patches that could only be. I shut down the thought, but the nausea twists inside me, pulling me toward something deeper. And then, as the horror swells, something else creeps in. It starts as a twitch, a need, deep and feral, like a slow burn crawling from my center outward. It coils in my stomach, my muscles, my bones, driving out everything else. A hunger, sharp, jagged, specific. I don't just want food. I want something else. Something alive. Number no, don't think it. Don't even say it. You don't want this. But I do. It's already there, growing, swelling, filling the hollow spaces inside until there's nothing left but the hunger. I try to push it down, to hold it back, but it's like caging fire. It flares, a force driving me to move, to push one unsteady, broken foot in front of the other, leaving damp streaks of earth where I walk. Ahead, movement, shadows, soft and slow. A person, bundled in a coat, walking the edge of the graveyard, flashlight in hand. I want to warn them, tell them to turn around, to run. Stop! But my body doesn't listen. I lurch forward. I'm watching, screaming inside, but I'm just a passenger, shackled here, while something else, some twisted, primal urge, takes the reins. My mouth opens, something wet and rotten drips down my chin, spilling onto torn clothes, but I can't stop. I'm close enough now to see him clearly, middle-aged, a little tired, maybe a little sad. He notices me, stops, frowning. Are you okay? His voice shakes, holding the flashlight up, illuminating my face. The light hits his eyes, wide with shock, as he takes in my face. His jaw drops, his lips tremble. Oh my God! Run! I want to scream. Run! But my mouth twists, letting out a moan, low and ragged, and it's enough to send him stumbling back, breath hitching in fear. He turns, but it's too late. My body surges forward, faster than I should be able to move, faster than anything this decayed body should manage. I catch him from behind, fingers sinking into his shoulders. I feel his body seize, the heat of him, the life. The hunger digs deeper, takes control of my hands, my teeth, drive into him, tearing at flesh like it's some kind of drug, some twisted ecstasy. He screams, his voice cutting through the night, but my body just keeps going. My teeth sink into his shoulder, the taste that hits my tongue. It's warm, alive. It fills me in a way nothing else can, something thick and metallic spilling down my throat, coating my mouth, and there's a sick satisfaction that follows, a relief even, like I've finally given in to something I didn't know I wanted. Stop. Please. God, just stop. But there's no stopping. My mouth pulls back, jaws snapping down, over and over, feeling skin and muscle tear, tasting the salt and the heat of his blood. His body twists, weak hands pounding against me, scratching, fighting. But his voice is breaking, giving way to soft, strangled cries. It's him and me, my body devouring his, my mind screaming in silent horror, torn between the repulsion and the craving, both so strong I don't know where one ends and the other begins. I taste his life fading, bit by bit, until he stops moving, limp beneath me. My hands fall to my sides, and I'm left there, panting, mouth and hands covered in his blood, insides roiling with satisfaction and disgust. The hunger settles, just a little, but doesn't go away. It sits there, dark, waiting. I know it'll be back. I look down at what's left of him, the bloodied mess that used to be a person. Pieces of him are scattered around me, stained on my clothes, smeared on my hands, and I feel nothing. Not horror, not revulsion, just emptiness. Number. That's not right. There's something else, something worse. I feel good, sated. A part of me is horrified by this, revolted. But that part feels so far away, drowned by the darkness. The hunger whispering again, like an old friend, like a promise. I don't know what I am anymore, but I know what I'll do. When the hunger comes back, I'll follow. There's blood on my hands, dark, drying, almost black in the moonlight. It stains the shredded skin, sinking into the folds and cracks as if it belongs there. I stare, feeling nothing, but then a name surfaces in my mind, just a whisper that strikes like lightning. Emily. It hangs there, echoing in the dark. A face appears, flickers, blurs, her eyes dark and warm, framed by wavy brown hair. I almost feel her, the laugh that carries through time. She's saying something to me, but her voice is faint as if drowned. I love you. The statement hits me, and with it, shame, thick and heavy, curling around the hunger. And there's a weight pressing on my chest, suffocating, even though I know I can't breathe. Guilt claws through the numbness, pulling her words up from wherever I tried to bury them. But it's gone, leaving only emptiness. My head pounds, trying to piece together fragments of who I was. The flashes come and go, sharper, harder to bear. The kitchen table, a family dinner, laughter, the smell of coffee, her voice as she hums, my wife, her hand on my face, the love so clear I could cry. Then it's gone, and I'm left alone in silence. The hunger stirs again, gnawing through the warmth of memory. Another face flickers into view. A child, a little girl, with a gap-toothed smile, clutching a worn teddy bear, her eyes full of trust. My daughter. I'm holding her hand somewhere bright, laughter filling the air. She'd giggle, squeezing my hand, saying, "Daddy, let's do this forever." And I'd smile, say, "Forever, baby." I feel it, warmth in my chest, something close to happiness, something I can almost touch. The thought stabs through, sharp and real, and the pain that follows is worse than anything I've felt. I want to scream, to claw this feeling out of me, but it's part of me, inseparable. My family, I need to find them. No. And that's when it hits, the full weight of it. They're gone, forever. I'm the one left here, trapped in this rotting shell, condemned to this endless gnawing hunger. A laugh bubbles up, ragged, hollow. I'm dead, but I'm still here, clinging to what's left of them in my mind, like some kind of pathetic penance. And yet, it'll never be enough to fill the void they left. The hunger stirs again, feeding on the pain, growing with each memory, each regret. But there's something else, faint, a whisper from the last remnants of who I was. You don't have to do this. I close my eyes, letting the memories wash over me, feeling their warmth, their pain. And for a moment, the hunger loosens, slipping back, and I'm just me, a person, a father, a husband. I can stop. I'm trying to cling to that sliver of clarity. I'll stop. But the hunger is there, lurking, waiting. I thought I could stop. I was wrong. The hunger comes back, an unrelenting, insatiable beast. It doesn't care about vows or memories. It rises, drowning every thought, every last shred of who I was. All I know is the hunger, expanding, filling me like rot spreading through flesh. I stumble forward, dragging my feet each step closer to the living. A faint glow of streetlights in the distance pulls me, and even as I scream in my mind to turn back, it's too late. My body isn't listening. A man steps out of a car, his whistling dying the second he catches sight of me. For a heartbeat, there's confusion in his eyes, just a flicker of disbelief. But I'm close enough to feel the warmth radiating off him. Run, I think, but he doesn't get a chance. My hands dig into his shoulders, nails scraping bone. He tries to pull back, but I clamp down my teeth, shredding through his skin. Hot blood gushes into my mouth. It's metallic and raw, filling me with a sick, animalistic thrill. He's screaming, a primal sound that echoes through the night, but it only fuels my hunger. My teeth grind deeper, ripping flesh, crunching tendon. His warm blood splatters hot and sticky over my hands, down my chin. No, no. The words spill out, garbled, thick with blood. Somewhere inside, I want to stop, loosen my grip, let him go. But the hunger claws at me, relentless, drowning out any shred of mercy. My hands keep moving, fingers tearing, teeth sinking deeper until I'm lost in the raw, brutal rhythm, ripping, gnawing, consuming. I don't stop until he's just a bloodied, hollowed shell at my feet, a nightmare painted in red. I stagger back, wiping my mouth. I can still taste him, feel him inside like he's become part of me. I stumble away. The hunger gnaws, relentless, twisting inside me. I turn a corner, desperate to escape, but there's someone else, a woman walking her dog, oblivious. No, please, not again. I beg, but it's useless. My body moves on its own, drawn toward her warmth. Her screams slice through the darkness as my hands latch onto her, fingers digging deep, holding tight. I bite down, tearing into her shoulder, the rush of her blood searing through me. It fills me, but somehow only sharpens the hunger, that endless, insatiable need that nothing, not even flesh, can satisfy. Please, I think, let this end. Let me die. But the hunger, it stirs again. I feel it, low and insistent, an ache that won't go away. I close my eyes, hoping for darkness, for an end. But there's nothing but the hunger, whispering. And I know in the deepest part of me that this will never end. I open my eyes, hunger gnawing at my bones, and find myself on a dark street lined with familiar houses. I don't know how I got here. One moment, I was somewhere else, sinking into darkness. Now I'm standing in front of a house that feels known. The porch light flickers weakly, barely alive. My eyes trace the door, the windows, edges worn by years of something I can't name. A tightness clenches in my chest. I'm not supposed to feel anything. But this place presses on me, screaming from a fading part of me I can't reach. I step forward, feet dragging over concrete. My hand, what's left of it, finds the door. I feel the metal, cold, sinking into bone. The door swings open. Inside, the smell hits. Coffee. And something warm, like number stop. But it's too late. I know this smell, this place. My feet pull me inside, down the dark hall. I'm moving without meaning to, my body betraying me, dragged forward. The hunger, that terrible hunger, pushes me on. A sound from upstairs. A creak. Tiny feet across carpet. I know what it is before I see. The hunger digs in, twisting me, urging me up the stairs. I don't want to go, but I can't stop. At the top, a door stands slightly open, a strip of light spilling into the hall. In the center of it, a small shadow shifts. "Daddy?" The word hangs in the air. Her voice, fragile, like a whisper wrapped in cotton. I try to say her name, to warn her, but all that comes out is a low, guttural growl. Her eyes widen. She steps back, dropping her teddy bear on the floor. Her lips tremble. "Daddy?" Her face blurs, twisting, fading. But there's something else, a flicker, faint, buried in what's left of me. Love. It's small, fragile, breaking through the cracks, just for a heartbeat. Her name is there, soft and warm. I remember her tiny hand in mine, her laughter, the way she'd look up at me with those trusting eyes, the way she'd curl up against me, safe, warm. I know I would do anything to protect her, anything to keep her safe. But then it's gone, snuffed out as the hunger roars up, an endless gnawing void swallowing everything I was, everything I am, shredding the last scraps of me, chewing up memories, swallowing every last trace of who I was. What's left of me drowns, dragged down, a stone sinking in a black sea. All I hear is the beat of her heart, pulsing warm in the silence. Run. Please, baby, run. But I lurch forward, teeth bared, hands reaching. The hunger takes over. I am gone. Sweetbread. An epilogue. My sister has always had a soft heart, soft as sweetbread. She cried after the old woman, despite everything. Maybe because of everything. I remember holding her as she wept, both of us covered in soot, her fingers scalded from holding shut the oven door. After the tears, she was quiet. She trailed me through the awful house with its sweetbread walls and sugared windows. I found the clothes we'd arrived in, offered up her kirtle, and she donned it without a word. She showed no whisper of response when we found the treasure in the attic, only nodded vaguely when I asked her to help me fill up the few bags we could easily carry back through the woods. Maybe it would be enough to keep us safe from our stepmother's whims. I do not want to go back there. It was the first she'd spoken in hours. I hesitated outside the witch's cottage, looking back over my shoulder at her. I do not want to go back to them. I sighed. Nor do I, but where else can we go? She wrung her fingers together in front of her skirt, eyes downcast and her teeth digging into her lower lip. Eventually, though, she nodded. Fine, you are right. She looked back at the house. Wait 1 minute. There may be something left in the kitchen. The kitchen? I repeated in horror, but she only nodded. Yes. She did not think I paid attention, but I did. I know which of her potions might be useful. If nothing else, we can sell them when we get back. I nodded slowly and followed her back into the cottage, though I stopped in the open arch that led into the kitchen itself. She moved easily, though the space, reminding me painfully of just how long she had been under the witch's thumb, while the horrid crone tried to fatten me like a prize hog. She collected some dozen bottles and vials, tucking them carefully in between the bolts of silks and satins we had pilfered from the attic before returning to me. Let us go. Though there was no trail this time, she seemed to know her way through the trees. I asked how, once, when we paused to wait out the dark, but all she said was that she simply knew now. as though the forest spoke to her in a way it hadn't before. I felt the first thrill of fear at that, but I knew that she was still so scared herself. I refused to let her see it. I tried to coax her into dreaming about what sort of life we might have with the witch's pilfered treasure, and managed to earn a wan smile for my efforts. But it was cold and dark, and soon enough, we simply huddled together under a gnarled tree as we waited for the deepest part of night to pass. When grayish dawnlight began to filter through the leaves, she was the first to stand. She had gone quiet again, and only answered me with faint hums or single words as we continued on our way. She seemed more comfortable to be leading us now, but something in the set of her shoulders reminded me of something. Something I could not quite name. Eventually, I lapsed into her silence when the trees broke apart to reveal the familiar shape of our father's home. She froze. Then she broke into a run, and I was only half a step behind her. The door was already opening when we reached the stoop, and our father met us with his arms open and tears in his eyes. He held us close and apologized, over and over, praising the Lord's name. I embraced him in turn, but alongside the relief in my chest, there was an anger in my gut. It had started a spark, but over the length of our trek back through the woods, had grown into a steady flame. I met my sister's eyes over our father's shoulder, and a chill ran through me. If my anger was a flame, then hers was the dead cold of darkest winter. Our father explained that our stepmother had been stricken ill not long after we left. She was in her room now, asleep, and had been for days. He did not expect her to recover, though he had been following the physician's orders as best he could. "Perhaps she shall rally to see you," he offered us hopefully. When neither of us answered, he sighed and dragged a hand down his thick beard. There was more gray in it than I remembered. "I know you must be angry with me, with us," he told us wretchedly, "that I could lose track of you so easily. It is an unforgivable failing in a father." "Lost?" I started slightly at the sharp edge in my sister's voice. Our father did too. She had always had a soft voice to match her heart. "We were lost?" she repeated, staring at him intently. Our father stared back, eyes wide with a hint of fear. "Lost," he confirmed at last in little more than a whisper. I dropped my eyes, unable to continue looking at him. My sister did not. Abruptly, she stood from our small table. "We will go see her then." I blinked, startled both by the sudden movement and the conviction in her voice, but I followed her into our stepmother's sick room. That flame of rage flickered a little higher in my chest, and I found that I could not make myself move more than 2 steps inside the door. My sister knelt beside the hateful woman and smoothed a hand over her brow in a gesture so tender it made me want to break something. "Here." She tipped one of the witch's vials against her lips. "This will help." I almost reached out to stop her, but as though she sensed the movement, she held a staying hand back toward me. When the vial was empty, she stood and brushed her hands down the front of her skirt. She did not look at me as she left the room. I hesitated a moment longer behind her, staring at the woman who had left us to the wood and the wild. Already, her breathing seemed easier. Anger and love for my sister warred, twin flames in the center of my chest. She had always borne such a soft heart. Our stepmother was awake and lively within a day. Though shocked by our return, she was mollified enough by the offerings of treasure we had stolen away with that she simpered and even summoned up some mawkish tears through which to tell us she was so sorry we had been lost to the wood. My rage burned hotter, and my sister grew colder. "We should celebrate your return," our stepmother exclaimed, a shawl wrapped around her shoulders, but no other sign of her illness remaining. "What do you wish for supper, my darlings?" "Sweetbread." I jerked around to stare at my sister, eyes wide and mouth agape. She did not so much as glance at me, but I felt her hand take mine under the table. She smiled at our stepmother, and my throat went dry. "But you are still recovering, stepmother. I feel quite well, all things considered. I shall make it," she offered gently. I could have stopped her then, could have clutched her hand in mine and dragged us out. We could have taken the treasure and left. It had been foolish of me to think there was nowhere for us to go. We might go anywhere. Seeing our father again, hearing him refuse to admit what they had done, made me sure of that. But my sister looked at me just for a moment, and the ice in her gaze froze me to my chair. She was not looking for permission, but I nodded shakily anyway. Our stepmother exclaimed what a good, kind girl she was as she moved into the kitchen. Soon enough, the cloying smell of the baking sweetbread hung thick in the air. It was all I could do not to gag. My sister served the plates while the bread was still steaming gently, even drizzling the last of our honey stores over our parents' portions. "We can always get more at the market now," she said with a hollow little laugh. Our stepmother agreed happily, though our father hesitated a moment before doing so himself. He was watching my sister with a faint wariness as she took her seat beside me. "Go on then, let us eat." They did. We sat in silence. It took our stepmother first. A faint cough, a furrow in her brow. She looked up with confusion, which changed quickly to a horrified realization as she stared at my sister. "You!" Our father choked, red spattering his lips. I looked away, squeezing my sister's hand tight where she had once more taken it beneath the table. We were desperate," he strangled out, reaching for her pleadingly. "I did not want to. She made me." My sister shook her head. "You let her." He collapsed forward onto the table, his breath a wheezing rattle that grew fainter with each passing moment. Our stepmother tried to lunge for us, but her legs gave out, and she sprawled across the floor. A scarlet trail, like candied jam, trickled from the corner of her mouth. "You!" She gasped again, glaring balefully up at my sister. "You! Little witch!" They both began to convulse. I buried my face in my sister's shoulder. I could feel her stroking my hair. Even without raising my head, I knew she did not look away until their last breaths had faded into silence. Then she simply stood, her hand still in mine. We were both silent as we gathered up our bags, still unpacked by the front door, and stepped out into the cool evening. "You are afraid?" I swallowed. Yes." She smiled at me, squeezed my hand again, and all I felt was cold. "You do not need to be. I will protect you." My sister has always had a soft heart, soft as poisoned sweetbread, bad reflections. I am not a well person. That isn't easy to admit, even though I understand that it is important to acknowledge that as fact. I am convinced that it all started the night of the storm. After the lightning strike and subsequent power surge from the night before, both washing machines at my apartment complex were on the fritz. It was a minor miracle that we had lost power for only a few minutes, and thank God my expensive surge suppressors did their job. As a combined freelance writer/web designer, I rely heavily on my computers for my livelihood, and imagining even one of them electrically fried just makes my cringe. The electric shock that knocked me on my ass was the real highlight of the evening, though. Strong summer evening thunderstorms were nothing new for our small Midwestern city, but this one was particularly impressive. Blinding flashes lit the windows, and booming thunder rolled and rattled the panes every few minutes. Not wanting to rely on the surge devices exclusively, I decided to quit working and power all my equipment down. Reaching down and unplugging the main computer power feed at the critical moment when the lightning-induced surge came through, I actually saw as well as felt the arc as it jumped from the wall outlet, first following the cord, then my hand as I pulled the plug out. It was quite a jolt, knocked me back a few feet and flat onto my back. I don't think I lost consciousness, but my whole body tingled and I smelled an ozone smell for hours afterward. Probably should have gone to the doctor just to get checked, but I'm mid-20s and still have some lingering adolescent male invincibility delusions, so I figured I'd survive and blew it off. Lugging dirty laundry down to the basement had never been one of my favorite pastimes, but add carting it a few blocks' journey through the neighborhood, and you have a whole new level of annoyance. Nonetheless, there I sat the next day, but already in a state of commingled pain and numbness from just a few minutes in the rock-hard, cracked pink plastic chair, a new John Scalzi sci-fi in hand. So far, the background noises of the machines and other patrons, including not one, but two screaming toddlers, had prevented me from successfully reading a single page. A short eternity later, the washer containing my first load quite spinning, and sounded a brief buzz to alert me that it was done. Even though the laundromat was moderately crowded, I was lucky that there was an open dryer just opposite my washer, so I dutifully drug myself out of the torture device, masquerading as a chair, and headed across the room. I bundled a large armful of my socks and tighty-whities, turned and dexterously flipped open the dryer lid, only to receive another shock to my hand. This one thankfully much milder than the one from the night before. It still startled me, though, and I yelled as I dropped my armload of clothes. "Son of a bitch!" A room full of eyes shifted my direction. "Sorry," I mumbled to no one in particular, returning to my chores. After finishing, I returned to my poor man's pink throne, determined to blot out all distractions and read. 5 minutes later, I was vegetating, staring aimlessly about the laundromat. That was when I first saw it. A hole where no hole should be, reflected in the convex glass door of the ancient washing machine directly across the room from where I sat. I thought, at first, it was a smudge, or even a ding in the glass. But then I noticed the same anomaly replicated in the machine door on either side of this one. The more I examined it, the reflected dark spot, if that's what it was, seemed to float behind me, down near the floor. But when I turned to look, there was nothing. Over the next few hours, I washed and dried 3 loads, returning to watch the spot in between each. If I looked closely enough, I thought I could see it moving ever so slightly, sort of swirling and undulating. There was a hypnotic effect to it, so much so that the mother of one of the screaming kids had to poke me to let me know my last load was done. Finally finished, I stuffed my clothes into a couple pillowcases that were serving as laundry bags and staggered blurry-eyed from the building. Once outside, my head somewhat cleared, and interest in my recent temporary fixation began to wane. My focus turned instead to contemplate the work that I was now seriously behind on, thanks to the storm and extended laundry duties, as I headed for home. Walking up the steps to my building, momentarily fumbling for my keys, I caught sight of my reflection in one of the glass windows that outline the main doorway, and I froze. The spot, or whatever the damn thing actually was, had somehow followed me. I stared in confusion. It didn't seem possible, yet there it was unmistakably in the reflection, hovering in the same vicinity behind me and just above the ground, like it had appeared before. I spun my head around, and just like before, there was nothing to be seen behind me. Against my better judgment, I spun my attention back to examine the reflection in the window. The spot was indeed there, but it had changed. While I had been walking home, it had grown larger and had begun to emit flashes of light from its swirling center. Just a speck appearing here and there, briefly shining through before the undulating mass rolled and blotted it out again. And along with the reflection, there was now an accompanying sound, a faint tinkling, like a set of wind chimes, coming from the direction of the spot. Unlike chimes, though, that came and went randomly with the wind, these played a melodic tune. Their cadence captured my attention, the rhythm lulling me into a trance. I listened and I stared. For how long? I couldn't say. With some effort, I pulled my gaze away from the window and the spot, focusing down on my now clenched hands. The chimes cut off cleanly as the spot slipped from my peripheral vision. Fear replaced my confusion. I quickly unlocked the door and hurried inside, my heart pounding out a trip hammer beat. I needed to get to my apartment, but avoid anything reflective along the way. The elevator was out of the question, so I kept my head down and headed for the stairs. The stairway provided temporary safety, with its dingy concrete steps and unadorned walls. My apartment was on the 3rd floor. As I climbed, I began to inventory the hazards that still awaited me. Once inside my own door, there lurked a multitude of windows, pictures, and mirrors, both big and small. TVs, appliances, and even my computers, and all had to be avoided. I reached my door without incident, and took a few moments to calm my nerves. As I waited, I couldn't help questioning the reality of what I thought had just happened. Was I really cowering outside my own door? In the hallway, I had traversed countless times, afraid of seeing some malevolent object in anything reflective. I tried to tell myself that this was foolishness, akin to a kid afraid of the dark for no apparent reason, other than it wasn't light. Or was there a better explanation? The shock during the storm. That had to be the cause, I reasoned. Maybe some brain damage, not much, but enough to make me see spots and floating objects that weren't really there, and hear things that weren't there either. Why not? I had not quite, but almost convinced myself that this could all be rationally explained. I still wasn't ready to raise my line of sight above floor level, but I entered the apartment much calmer than I had been only moments before. I thought about the little kid me again, afraid of the dark, and remembered walking through the house turning on all the lights, telling myself that even though I wasn't really afraid, the lights were just a harmless precaution. With that as my mindset, I retrieved a handful of towels and blankets and proceeded through my apartment, covertly covering anything reflective as I went. Collapsing at my desk, having covered my monitors with a sheet, I started theorizing how I could live like this until I could get to a doctor for help. I rationalized, even if the spot wasn't real, I still had to deal with its effects until I could be assured that it was gone. As I was ticking off tasks needed to stay functional, disable monitor screensavers, figure out how to go out in public, maybe wear a hoodie with the strings pulled tight to minimize my field of view, my phone rang. I reflexively reached for it out of habit, and had just enough time to register that it was my mom calling before I saw it again, reflected in the dark glass of my cell phone. It floated higher now, and it was still growing, perhaps balloon-sized now. I could see variation in colors, shades of gray to black, swirling and heaving in rippling folds. The flashes of light had increased their brightness, still appearing briefly in the dark mass before being reconsumed. The chimes returned as well, grabbing my attention so completely that answering my mother's call was beyond my capabilities. I watched and listened, unsure whether sight or sound was the more compelling sensation. As my phone ringing stopped, I heard another sound, low and hidden underneath the chimes. There was nothing melodic about this new sound, and it struck a fresh fear into my mind. It resonated wet and heavy, like some ancient Lovecraftian god of old dragging itself from dark, mysterious depths. As I listened, the chimes clashed with the new noise in a strange auditory battle for supremacy. As I watched, the spot slowly grew. I could see it changing in the reflection, but knew it was occurring behind me, and at the same time, knew that there would be nothing there to see if I had been able to turn and look. Rigid with fear, I couldn't look away, helpless to alter my situation. As I sat incapacitated, a fresh horror arose. Like soft tendrils at first, I sensed what felt like a pair of many-fingered hands creep over my shoulders and down my chest. Their caress was almost sensual as they moved down to me waist, where the sensation changed to a grip. There was no real strength in the ghostly hands, but the feeling was inexplicably drawing me backward, back to where the spot awaited. Sensual became coaxing. Coaxing turned to seductive, then finally approached insistence. Unable to resist, I tried rolling myself backward as I sat in the desk chair. The chair casters did not turn smoothly against the carpet, or I might have succeeded in my retreat to God. Only knows what fate the spot had planned for me. As I flexed my legs to overcome the drag of the carpet, my loving yet meddlesome mother came to my rescue. I hadn't answered her previous call, and she hadn't left a message. Her routine in such situations was to wait 10 minutes and call again, using the time to compose an appropriately thoughtful yet guilt-inducing message to leave. The phone chirped loudly in my hand, enough to startle me and cause me to drop it. Luck being on my side for once in my life, it landed screen down. I pulled a slew of papers, coasters, and even a dirty plate off my desk, whatever was within reach, to cover it. The onslaught had ceased in a flash. I spent the rest of that night living like a blind man. I tied a shirt around my head for a blindfold and wore it constantly, not trusting myself to just keep my eyes closed. Somehow, with face recognition and Siri's help, I managed to call and check the hours for the urgent care facility a few blocks away, my plan being to arrive as the doors opened in the morning. After inexplicably getting a few hours sleep, mostly from exhaustion, and having neither eaten nor showered since the previous morning, I found myself contemplating just how best to navigate walking the 6 blocks to the doctor. I couldn't very well walk down the street blindfolded, so I had employed my hoodie idea. With the opening pulled down to just an unnerving few square inches, I ventured out. Other than sideswiping a garbage can and nearly colliding with a couple of emerging coffee shop patrons, my tunnel vision trek was proceeding without any serious issues until I needed to cross the main road. So far, I had only encountered side street intersections, with little to no traffic at this hour, but the medical facility was on the opposite side of the 4-lane. As I waited at the light, head down and listening for the chirping noise that told me it was safe to cross, I reassuringly told myself that I was going to make it, that the doctor would scan my head, prescribe a pill, or send me to some specialist who would know exactly how to cure what ailed me. Having made it this far unscathed, I was feeling just a sliver of optimism as the chirp came, and I stepped into the street. I may have been distracted, or it may have made no difference. I heard a motor racing, just a bit, to my right. Nothing particularly menacing, but enough to draw my attention. Just like answering the phone, I instinctively looked up ever so slightly to assure myself that I wasn't about to be run over. And there it was. A spotlessly clean storefront window, advertising the coming fall fashions. Spotless, that is, except for the spot I had been avoiding. The result was instantaneous. The ethereal chimes and fearsome dragging sounds, the forceful groping fingers upon my chest, urging me backward, and the sight of the ever-growing, surging spot itself, all manifested collectively. Reflected in the glass, the spot now loomed, grown larger than me. Its depths beckoned, its darkness seductive. I stopped, then reversed direction in the crosswalk, shuffling backward toward the maw of the thing that had been pursuing me. I was a part of the reflection this time, and I watched as my fate unfolded behind me. The flashing lights became blue-white arcs, dancing wildly just behind me, reaching out to welcome me or strike me dead, I knew not which. When a delivery truck pulled to the stoplight and blocked the window from my view. Released, I collapsed. Horns blared, onlookers undoubtedly gawked, and a young girl actually stepped up and asked me if I needed help. I ignored them all, abandoning my optimistic hopes for a medical miracle cure. I staggered to my feet, pulled my hoodie strings tighter, and ran. I desperately wanted to run away. But how can you run away from a reflection, from an entity that follows you always? So I ran towards something, or rather, somewhere. I ran blindly to the laundromat. It made no logical sense, but logic had been left far behind sometime yesterday. As I had laid awake last night, my mind had reeled through scenarios, causes, and plans for what had been happening. The doctor had remained as plan A. My plan B made no sense whatsoever, but it flowed forward like a lifeline as I ran. Miraculously, I arrived at the laundromat without being run over or seeing another reflection. The laundromat hadn't opened yet, but that wasn't going to deter me. I pried the painted metal top off a public trash can, and with my eyes closed, beat it against the front window until it shattered. I carefully crawled through and headed for the door in the rear of the building marked Employees Only. It was thankfully unlocked. Once inside, it took little time to find something that would serve my purposes: a large screwdriver in an old toolbox. Back in the laundromat was an array of electrical panels mounted on the back wall, variously marked high voltage, danger 220/208 volts, or just electrical hazard. I had noticed these while gazing idly about the room the day before. Without hesitating to think, I pried the door open on the largest of the panels, held the screwdriver by the metal blade to assure good contact, and jammed it across the incoming leads. And woke up here in the hospital in the psychiatric ward about 2 weeks ago. Guess you know the rest, Doc. I refused to open my eyes until anything reflective was removed from the room, the curtains drawn. Not sure what else I demanded, but I got sedated for it. I do remember. Under the care of your colleagues, though, I'm calmer and less prone to delusions. In just this short time, I've progressed to where I can actually look at myself in a mirror. I don't like to, but I can do it. Well, you do seem to have made incredible progress, Mr. Buchanan. Please, just Jerry. Okay, Jerry. And I did want to apologize again for you getting shuffled about here a bit. We seem to have quite the rash of absenteeism lately. I hope there isn't anything contagious being passed around." "Oh, I'm sure you'll get to the bottom of it, Doc," I said, rising and extending my hand. "I wanted to thank you and your team again for all you've done." As he reached out to shake my hand, he flinched his own. "Oh, got a little shock from you, Jerry." "Yeah, that happens. Probably just static, the request. Hear me, O Master, as we submit to your will for our meager and groveling desires. We beg and ask you to feel our souls as they bend and call to you, O Master, for your mercy and favor upon us now. We beg you to hear the thoughts of us all. Kevin, Robert, Dave with the beard, Dave without the beard, Steve and Stephen, Roger, and, yes, my little brother, Brian. We have brought ourselves to this place on this very cold and difficult day to ask you for your assistance, O Master. And please respond pretty quickly, because my brother is driving me crazy and the others don't have the nerve to actually ask for help. We seek your assistance to meet girls. Yes, my Master, we submit to you and hope to seek your favor to have the females of our neighborhood submit to our will. Don't tell anyone that the first one to have any success with girls has been my little brother, because that would work against us and our desires. Besides, it was only one time when he got a kiss from someone in his class on a dare. She really did not like him, but he keeps talking about it. Don't tell anyone. Yes, I have been asked by Kevin and Dave with the beard to say that they do have girlfriends, but they are unhappy females who will not go to first base with them until they are actually serious about what the relationship is all about. No information has been shared to explain what that may actually mean. I suggested a ring, but Dave without a beard and Steve and Stephen think that this might be going too far for... Oh, Master, I have been told not to use their names. Brian wants me to put it into my supplication, and that this is not relevant if we do have your favor in these matters. From our deep study of the material, we know that you do show your touch upon those who are willing and aware to sacrifice what we love to gain your respect. I still think it would make more sense to use our full names, but some people are too frightened of your power to be that willing. So, we will instead make our offerings to you. We have brought you the following as our sacrifice to you. My watch, given to me as a gift for my 16th birthday, and linked with the promise that this was one that my grandfather wore for many years and wanted me to have. I never wear it, but it is a potent sacrifice. Dave with the beard has offered you all of his comic books. He has been collecting them with Dave without a beard since he was merely a child. They are both willing to give it up now, and it has nothing to do with the information they have provided this evening about their move to a new place and their lack of space. They are also not related, although it seems sometimes that they could be brothers, despite the difference between hair color and attitudes toward life. I will continue. Kevin has a very nice guitar that he no longer plays, a Rickenbacker with 12 strings. I have offered to buy it from him at a reasonable rate. A discount should be considered, but he has chosen to carry it all this way and provide for you, O Master. Please accept his misguided offer. Seriously, I can play, and if he would just give me a chance, I could prove it. Steve and Stephen have. I must admit that they are family, not brothers, O Master, but cousins far removed from different parts of the family and living in the same neighborhood. Yes, it has caused some confusion among us, but also some amusement. Their offering, O Master, is to have a change of name. They have not yet decided which of them should make the sacrifice, and have a new appellation, but they are making the inquiries needed to find out how it shall be done. I do not think this is the greatest sacrifice possible, but their minds are made up, I think. Robert has remained silent, O Master, and we are beginning to wonder if he is really into this. His appearance betrays an interest in sports more than obedience to you and your powerful essence. We have asked what he would like to contribute to achieve our wishes, all of our wishes, and he has made a sneer and tossed in a baseball into the ring. It is cold, so we know that this was a special ball that came at the end of the season, but I still feel that this is a grave insult. His response of "take it or leave it" is no reflection upon your majestic power, but please accept that this is coming solely from his arrogant soul and should be treated accordingly. Roger has brought his savings bonds. We told him that his sacrifice should not be so obvious, but he is adamant that they will mature soon, and that even those in your particular plane, O Master, should appreciate the money. So his offering is made, although I think that he may have other investments that are much more liquid that he is not willing to share with us. He just needs to trust us once. Finally, my little brother wants to sacrifice me. I feel that this would be quite pointless and silly. I also feel that I should inform our mother of this nonsense, but he has already threatened to expose our group to our parents, and I fear that I must allow him to do this. I would be honored to sacrifice myself, but I would like to be clear that this is done simply out of spite by him. The choice is yours. And seriously, O Master, don't listen to my little brother. He won't really appreciate all that can be offered to a lost soul. He's spoiled enough as it is. Here endeth our request.